How's it going? It's WBK in the building. Rapstar Boxing Knowledge in the house. To all my boxing subscribers, my viewers, to everybody, I hope everybody's doing really well. Had a great weekend of boxing. We got Roper Dope here from London, and we're just gonna, touch on this weekend, on the fights, and just to, run down of what happened. But as I get to that, I want to start with the Daniel Dubois, Joe Joyce. We're getting a lot of negative criticism for Daniel Dubois. I want to let everybody know how the boxing world works. They're very toxic sometimes. You know how it is. They were promoting him like the best thing since sliced bread. Frank Warren has been promoting Daniel Dubois in a way that he would be the next best thing after Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury. And it feels like right now we're getting a lot of negative criticism and we're getting a lot of things out there which doesn't look good for Daniel Dubois. But before I touch on how I saw the fight, how I break it down, I want to introduce to you another knowledgeable brother from London. Introduce yourself, bro.
Hi, I'm calling from Roper Boxing. Hope everyone's well. Hope everyone's staying safe. We're here to talk about some about the passion that we all love, which is boxing. So good. I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. And, we got to explain to everyone around the world, this is a graveyard shift from London, England. We're on a lockdown right now. So nothing better than speaking about the sport that we love, the game of boxing. And I think, doing a graveyard shift for everybody around the world right now is something that I'm doing. So look, let's just touch on the fight, though. Let's get to the Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois fight. Roper Dope, how did you see that fight this weekend?
Look, I think there's some real questions that need to be asked here about this because there's been a lot of talk, as everyone's saying, there's a lot of talk about Daniel Dubois quitting. You see, what I'm going to say to you about this is, and what gets to me about this is, did Daniel Dubois just decide at that very moment that he's not going to get up? Because he didn't look cold out. So is it a question about, did he just decide at that very moment that, no, I don't want to get up? Was that decision made in those very 10 seconds? Or did he start feeling a real agonizing pain before he actually walked out into that round, or the round before, or the round before? Because you see, what you've got to look at here is his corner. Did his corner, I mean, I look at trainers, they work so closely with their fighters that they're almost like a parent. I mean, obviously, we all know that there's many father-son relationships in boxing as it is. So it's almost like the role of a father that a trainer takes on. They work very closely with them. We're in training camp. They're working, 3 times a day on their conditioning, on their training, on their technique. So there's a real close bond there. Now, when you've been close enough with someone for that long, you should be able to tell just by looking at them. They don't even have to say anything to you. I mean, I'm sure a lot of people down here can relate that when you know someone very well, take your brother, for example, take your sister, for example, take your mum, for example, your dad, or your son. I'm sure there's many parents here. When you look at them, do you really have to have them spell out that, hey, I'm not quite feeling right, I'm not comfortable with this? Do you really have to have them spell it out? You don't really, do you? You can tell just by looking at them. You know their look, you know how they react. You should be able to know just from that if something is wrong. So my question is, did the corner not see that before he came out into that round? Did the corner not see that the round before, the round before? Did they not get a one iota of an inkling that something wasn't right and he wasn't feeling good? Did he not tell them, or did they not feel that something was wrong? They saw his eye was closing. Did they ask him about it? So I think before we even move to a young Daniel Dubois, who's like, what is he, 23 years old? Before
Yeah,
we
he's
even move
23
to
years old, Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, so before we even moved over to a young Daniel Dubois and start questioning his heart or whether he quit or what he did, I think we also need to, because they all say, we're a team. Well, if you're a team, well, then basically if heads are going to fall or people are going to be questioned about what's happened here, Why should it only be Daniel Dubois that's questioned? The other thing is it a case of the corner did well? This is just regards to his injury. Okay. Now the other thing is, was it a case of the corner were absolutely happy with what Daniel Dubois was doing, and they were happy, and it was just him that wasn't following orders? I mean, the fact of the matter is, he was, according to a lot of people, I believe, and even on the scorecards, I think Daniel Dubois was ahead. Now, you tell me something. If a fighter is ahead 8 rounds in, would he quit? I mean, would you quit if you were, 8 rounds in and winning? Would you quit at that point? Unless you really, really had to, would you quit? Or would you say, hey, I'm close, I could still maybe win this? What would you do? I mean, for me, someone to quit at that point when you're ahead and you've only got a couple of rounds to go, for you to quit there, I mean, it makes me question that. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? I mean, I can understand if he was 7 rounds down, that maybe he's thought, look, I've got no hope here, I'll come back and fight another day. But that wasn't the, that wasn't, that's not what it looked like to me in this fight. So Daniel Dubois is young. I'd like to see him have a chance to come back. I think every person that's held a belt, as Daniel did at that time, the British and European, I think they should have a chance to come back. How he comes back, I don't know. I mean, the fact that he was up on the card should give him some confidence. So I think all we can do, I think for me, the best fight for him to come back to is fighting Joe Joyce again.
That's a very good point. Let me just touch on this, Rope-a-Dope, because, we got the viewers coming through, and I want to let everybody know what we're talking about right now, because as time goes on, the viewers keep coming in. I'm just going to let you know, I appreciate your love for the game, and I appreciate how you are sympathetic towards Daniel Dubois, but boxing doesn't run that way. This is not football, this is not tennis. You know and I know, Rope-a-Dope, boxing is a toxic world. When you're being promoted like the next best thing coming out of England, and you sit down for a 10 count. I mean, I'm going to remind you about the people who've been in that situation before. I understand what you mean at 23, but you do realize he was the favorite in this fight. Just like you said, he was winning. He was the favorite in the bookies. Daniel Dubois was the guy who they expected to win in that fight. Now, some people said they rather see a man get knocked out because this is boxing. This is not tennis. This is not basketball. This is not football, bro. This is not one of those sports where you get injured and you can't play that game. Boxing's not a game. You've seen the criticism today. You've seen the criticism in the newspapers. You've seen the criticism all over social media that Daniel Dubois is a quitter, even by the professional athletes. Some of the professional athletes said he will never win a world champion with a heart like that. That the man was close in the fight. He had 2 rounds left. Yes, he had an eye socket, which was, a broken eye socket. But how many fighters have you ever seen in the past with worse injuries who are going out there on their shield? Because this is boxing. People love warriors. They don't like people who sit back like this. So I want to remind you about some of the fighters. But I want you to tell me how you feel about the divided boxing world with the criticism, because he is going to get criticized and he has to live with this, Rope-a-Dope.
Look, I'm going to say this. I've just right now, obviously, spoken about his corner, spoken about the fact that he's young, okay? But what I'm going to move on to now with regards to him being a world champion, that's another story. Yes, he was probably up on the cards, but honestly, if you're struggling the way that you did and you're having to struggle to the level that you have against Joe Joyce, and I don't want to take anything away from Joe Joyce, I have nothing against the man. Like everyone who loves this game, we respect all fighters that step into the ring. They put their life on the line, so we respect it. We respect all fighters. But the way he struggled against the Joe Joyce wasn't exactly dancing around like Muhammad Ali. He was coming in straight lines, and his name obviously even suggests that with a name like Juggernaut, that I just keep coming forward. Well, he wasn't exactly hard to hit. Okay, fine, he had a longer reach than you, He had a jab that kept on peppering you. But I mean, for how long can a man keep on jabbing at your head before you decide to just start keeping your hand up? His corner was on him throughout the fight, saying, "Don't you dare put your hands back down," because obviously he's getting hit in his eye and his eye's getting worse. He allowed Joe Joyce to just, throughout the fight, just keep jabbing him and jabbing him and jabbing him and hit the target at each time. I mean, these are basics. You know, I mean, how can
So
you
in
let
other
someone
words, he
just
didn't
jab your head up?
adapt, right? Rope-a-dope. He wasn't Daniel Dubois wasn't able to adapt in that fight. He couldn't even put his he didn't realize that every time he was getting punched to the jab, he wasn't putting his hands up. Is that because he felt uncomfortable, or that's just not his style?
Look, I just think he didn't adapt. I think you're right. I think it's spot on. I think anyone, even the untrained eye, I think will be able to see that he didn't adapt. You don't just keep coming in straight lines to a guy who's just right in front of you. Move around, give him some angles, try something different. I mean, surely they discussed this in camp. Surely they saw videos of him. They could see his style. They could see this guy just comes forward. How do we do this? What did he do? Did you see him weaving around? None of them. They were just. I mean, I'm sorry to say, and like I said, I don't want to say anything to these guys. Um, but the truth of the matter is, I mean, we saw Roy Jones and Mike Tyson have a fight that same night. And I don't want to digress from the topic that we're on, so we'll keep to that. But I just do want to add one thing. I was actually more entertained seeing a 54-year-old Mike Tyson and a 51-year-old Roy Jones Jr. fight each other than I was with Daniel Dubois and Joe Joyce.
Hey, a lot of people feel that way, man. You're not the only one, Rope-a-dope. I've spoke to different platforms, and some people were more excited with Roy Jones and Mike Tyson than the Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois. But look, let me just touch on this, Rope-a-dope. You know, we like to break it down in rap star boxing knowledge. We break it down and we dice it up differently over here. Um, let's just think out the box right now, right? He's 23 years old. Daniel Dubois is a young, fresh guy in boxing. But, you know, at the end of the day, right, he had 7, 8 rounds to adapt into that fight. He had he just showed one dimension of himself. He was relying on his power, and it didn't seem like the power was hurting Joe Joyce. I mean, yeah, he had Joe Joyce. He hit Joe Joyce early on in the fight. He got some good flush shots on Joe Joyce. But, you know, Joe Joyce got a granite chin. If there was other fighters, you've seen what Daniel Dubois has done to C-class fighters. He's been able to stop them. And he himself believed his own hype. Do you think they put him in there too early? Because you know we can't criticize him both ways. You got to either respect Daniel Dubois for going into the fight with another unbeaten guy with not too much experience, give him that praise, or do you just think he just went into this fight too early? He wasn't prepared, and his camp miscalculated.
Look, I think Joe Joyce's experience came in. He's got good amateur experience. This is something David Hay touched upon, and he pointed it out. Um, for a moment you'd think, well, David Hay, he's worked, he works closely with Joe Joyce. So obviously, there may be some favoritism there, but the fact of the matter is, David Hay pointed this out. So some people need to take note of that. David Hay pointed this out that Joe Joyce has more better experience, better amateur experience as well. I think arguably he's even had better opposition. And on top of that, you've also got to remember that heavyweights, with the exception of maybe like a young Mike Tyson, heavyweights generally seem to mature. More as they get older. That's when they start becoming more their best. More towards their 30s. That's when they start really coming into their own. And the thing is, that's where Joe Joyce is. And you could see that he seemed to have a better game plan. You could see he came out with a game plan of like, I'm going to keep him at range with my jab, which is exactly what he did. And he was allowed to execute it. You've always got to look at a boxing fight like this. Who was able to implement their game? Now, you can't completely write off Daniel Dubois and say, well, he didn't belong there and it was too soon for him. Because the fact of the matter is, he was winning 8 of the 10 rounds. I mean, maybe if he would have had a little bit of better defense, maybe he could just cruise his way to 10. So it's very easy for people to say, oh, he didn't belong in there and it's too soon for him. Yeah, maybe experience-wise it was too soon for him. I think if this fight was taken a couple of years later, it might have been a different outcome. But the fact is, look, he's young, and sometimes, a fight like this can be the making of you. You learn from it. He wasn't knocked out cold. Maybe it's something he'll learn on. It will give him, good experience, and I guess we can just take it like that. But I think if he's got to come back for another fight, maybe take an easy fight with someone after this, and then maybe go for Joe Joyce again, or try and get another rematch. I don't think you should go straight in for a rematch with someone like Joe Joyce. But I think maybe have another fight, maybe another one or two fights, regroup and come back. But if you're going to start talking about him in the same breath as people at the top, like Fury, Joshua, Wilder, Ruiz, these guys, absolutely not. I would definitely say he does not belong in the ring with them. Absolutely not. He's not even close. But to be honest, I would struggle to see him even in the ring with someone like Derek Chisora. And Derek Chisora is going to be a step for him before any of those guys, because, he's come to be known as like the gatekeeper of the heavyweight division. So even against someone like, I know Joe Joyce is talking about Usyk. That's something maybe he can look to go on to. But as for Daniel Dubois, I think if he wants to really see where he is, and if he wants to take himself seriously, he can either try and go for Joe Joyce again, or maybe try his luck with someone like Chisora. But if there was someone like Derek Chisora fighting someone like Daniel Dubois, who would your money be on, Rapstar?
Well, look, you're crackling a bit. Try and stay in one place if you can, and speak a little bit louder if you can. But I can hear you. I'm just gonna break it down, and I'm not gonna be as kind as you, Rope-a-Dope. We both come from England, and that England fans, they're right behind you. But when you lose, they're gonna be the first to criticize you, right? So you got to look at this boxing out of your own way. I know you're kind to the sport, and I know you look at the sport a little bit different to maybe some of the fans. But the fans are very criticized. They're going to criticize you now, and this is something he has to live with. And when you've quit in the ring, we know today it's been confirmed. Daniel Dubois has a broken eye socket. We know that it's been confirmed. But when you take a 10 count, and some people got you ahead in the fight, and you're ahead in the fight, your own corner sent you out in the 10th round, right? So your own corner knew that your eye's shutting up. But let's be honest, Rope-a-Dope, we've had fighters who've had broken, dislocated shoulders. We've had fighters like Arthur Abraham, who had a dislocated jaw, but went on and won that fight. We've had fighters. Do you remember the guy in England? What was his name? Danny Williams? Remember he fought with a broken arm? I'm just saying, people love warriors, especially coming out of where we come from in England. People love the warriors. And now Daniel Dubois does not have the warrior spirit. Yes, we know it takes a very, very tough man to get in the ring. But if you want to be the guy who's the next elite heavyweight, or you want to be pronounced to the names next to the Andy Ruizes, or even, let's just say, the other names which are right underneath Tyson Fury, Wilder, and Joshua, the Hergovich. Let's not forget about, King Kong Ortiz. Let's not forget that, fighters like that still are the gateway fighters. They're standing right there. So if you beat them, you belong somewhere. Now, Daniel Dubois' stock has gone down, bro. And what I can tell you is Joe Joyce is the one whose stock has risen. And Daniel Dubois is getting a lot of negative press and a lot of negative feedback in order to be a quitter. Now, you can't take that because even legends of the game, they quit. Let's be honest. We've had fighters who've quit. Look at Oscar De La Hoya. He achieved everything in the sport, one of the best who's ever put on any gloves. But he quit against Manny Pacquiao, didn't he? He stayed on his stool, remember? On the 8th round?
Yeah.
He got totally outboxed. But Oscar De La Hoya achieved everything out of boxing, and he achieved everything. And that was one of his last fight where he quit. Now, we know that fighters have quit in the past. Like, remember Nicholas Walters against Lomachenko?
Hmm.
Nicholas Walters was one of the best fighters they were saying coming out of America. And he was an unbeaten record. And Nicholas Walters quit on his stool against Lomachenko. Let's not forget about Ringadale. Ringadale and Lomachenko were both Olympians. And if I'm not mistaken, they were both gold medalists. But Ringadale moved up 2 weights and he quit. But if you look at the fighters which have quit, they've achieved so much out of boxing before they quit. And the only guy who I can look at right now, and maybe many others, or some of my subscribers or some of my viewers will send me some comments. But when Vitaly Klitschko was younger, in year 2000, he had a fight with Chris Bird and he damaged his shoulder in that fight. Well, he quit, but he came back to achieve great things. So he's the only fighter right now that I can say who quit but came back to do better things. Unless some of the people will rephrase me, because there is many other fighters out there who probably did that. But what I'm saying is the fighters I've given you and the pattern I'm showing you of the fighters who quit, like even Roberto Duran, he quit. But these guys achieved a lot of things in boxing before they quit. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Look, the only thing that I'd say here, out of the fighters that you've mentioned, I mean, you've mentioned Oscar De La Hoya, you've mentioned Nicholas Walters. These are the guys that you've immediately mentioned. I mean, you've mentioned Klitschko, but what I'm saying is, at least in the Nicholas Walters fight, for example, these guys were losing, and they were losing bad. From what I remember, they were losing bad. Daniel Dubois wasn't losing bad here. If anything, a lot of people say that he was.
He was winning.
So there's a difference here.
This is even worse.
But there's a difference here. In the fact is, why have you, if you want to call it quit, why have you done it in the 8th round when you're so close to the end of the fight? And this is what makes me question, like, what exactly has happened there? It's not a usual case. Like, oh, he's getting beaten so badly. Let's just get him out of there and fight for another day. It wasn't the case. This guy was winning. So only Daniel Dubois really truly knows in his mind what's happened there. But the bottom line is, I mean, if you really got to push me to it, I mean, I like to play devil's advocate. But if you really have to push me to it, do you know what?
The man quit.
The fact of the matter is, you weren't out on your shield. You were on your knee. You could have got up, and you didn't. Okay? And you could have just stopped, but not fought back. You could have just held your hand to your eye to make sure that doesn't get hurt anymore. And you could have just tried to get through the fight a bit more. But the fact is, he didn't even try. And that's what, I mean, then there's that side of it. Because, a lot of people are trying to dissect this and they're looking at it from one side. I mean, this is what I've been doing since I've seen the fight. And since, obviously, I've been seeing some of the, what some of the, boxers, past and present, have been talking about it. And this is what I would look at, is that, there's a couple of things to look at. Did the corner know? What did the corner say to him? Did they say, look, let's get through it, whatever the pain is? Did they know? I mean, I think the only one that knew that he wasn't going to get up at that point was Daniel Dubois. I think he's the only person there at that time when he took that knee that he wasn't going to get up. I don't think his corner knew, because I think if his corner did know, they wouldn't have sent him out. So I think that's a decision that he took independently of anyone else. And the truth of the matter is that people are going to question your heart. And the thing is, I think now that he's already done it, I think he did it in the heat of the moment. But the fact is, now that he's already done it, he's probably going to come out with some excuses. He's obviously come out with a post saying, I'm going to prove all the doubts.
Well, let me just say this, Roper-Dope. I don't know about excuses, but I know it's been confirmed today that Daniel Dubois had a broken eye socket. Okay? Now, just for all the viewers and the people out there, it's been confirmed that, he had a broken eye socket. But, Daniel Dubois is this guy who come with ferocious power. He's meant to be the next thing coming out of Britain. You know, the best thing since sliced bread. Frank Warren said that this is the man who's going to take over boxing after Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. It's backfired. And now they got to pick up the pieces. Whether we like it or not, our guy in London, England, has to pick up these pieces now. And he's going to be, his rankings are going to be going down, or probably they'll be where he's at. Joe Joyce's stock has gone up. It is what it is. We got to keep it real here. Daniel Dubois quit, and he quit on his own turf. And he's going to always have that on his shoulders. And if I ask you about another young fighter who ever done that, did you ever see them come back for greatness?
No, I mean, I don't think it's good. It's certainly not a good look to be doing that so early in your career. To be going down like that. Like I said, I mean, you know, but boxing fans, you know, they don't like to see that. Yeah, he can sit there. I mean, I've heard of some fighters who have said, look, man, you know, I can't remember which fighter it was, but I remember a fighter once saying that, hey, you know, I've got wife and kids, man. You know, I can't just go out like that. And, you know, because, you know, it was suggested that he quit as well. And he just said, well, I've got kids, man. And he put that first and he wanted to protect himself. So the thing is, you know, if you're going to do that, yeah, okay, you're within your rights to sit there and say, well, I'm not going to let myself get damaged to this extent. You can sit there and do that. But the only thing is, you're not going to be a fan favorite.
You're definitely not a fan favorite now. And you know how the England fans are. They're all about you when you're winning. And now he lost. They're like, this guy can't even beat Derek Chisora. Now the whole negative feedback and all this stuff what's going to come to him, he has to have thick skin to get through it. Because, you know, you can say what we want to say. He's a young man. And inside that spirit, it's been broken. Whether we like it or not, the man's will had got taken by Joe Joyce. And, you know, all the money was riding on Daniel Dubois. It's a big, it's going to be a big comeback for him. And I just don't think he could win a world title with just his pure boxing power that he relies on and the way that he couldn't adapt to the jab. The jab actually won Joe Joyce the fight. So how does he survive within the top 10 heavyweights? I mean, this man has to rebuild. He has to come back. And this is one of the biggest things in Frank Warren's promotion. Frank Warren looked very gutted. He looked pissed off. But it is what it is. And now, I'm not. Look, I love what you're saying, Rope-a-Dope, and I love how you respect the game of boxing. But I got to speak for the fans, and I can't just speak for the fans in England. I got to speak to the fans that I speak to all over the world. Daniel Dubois quit, and he quit because the pain was too much in his eye. I like you to rephrase that in a way that you appreciate and understand. Not everybody thinks like you, Rope-a-Dope. They definitely are going to give him a real fucking hard time for this.
Look, he's going to have a hard time, no doubt about it. Yeah, and he's probably going to have to hear this for the rest of his career. Um, my only point is there's other people involved here. Did they know about it? And you know, I'm saying, you know, look, it's quite obvious. He sat there. He wasn't cold out. He wasn't cold. It's not like he couldn't defend himself anymore. He just it looked like it was a conscious decision that he made, and you know that's not easily forgiven in boxing. It's something he's going to live with. I think now his pride is wounded, and he'll definitely want to be coming back with a vengeance. But he's got a lot of rebuilding to do here now, because he's now going to have to prove himself. I think he had a lot of people behind him before, and he's going to have to go and prove himself. Look, listen, when I see a problem or I see something's happened, I like to reflect upon it. I like to, it's almost like if I've seen, you know, that there's a little pot or a jar that's broken. I like to pick that cup up. I look at it upside down. To look at it from the left side. I like to look at it from the right side. I like to sit there and pick what could have happened. I like to, how can I say? I like to dissect it. So
So before you
I'm not saying that.
dissect it, I just want to let you know this, Robert. We got another guy here, a boxing guy from Australia. Is it Kangaroo Jack?
Correct, mate.
Yeah, he's from Australia. He seems to have come to our channel before. So Rope-a-Dope, shall we get to Kangaroo and then come back to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, Kangaroo, I've seen your message there. We're going to send it out to the subscribers. Please touch on the fight that you saw this weekend in London, mate, with Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois.
Well, it's no surprise. I picked Daniel Dubois to win the fight early in my tips, but that didn't come to fruition. But after the fifth round, I thought Joyce would win. I knew he would win after the fifth round. I predicted that if it went any longer than fifth. But to win the way he did with the jab, because that's practically how he won, just off the jab the whole fight, and to Daniel Dubois to just stop and go down on his knee, I was shocked, because he's like the wonder boy of the heavyweight division at the second. Everybody's talking him up like he's going to be some sort of showstopper. I mean, it'll be interesting to see how Daniel Dubois comes back. I wouldn't read too much into the fight because he's young. I hope he comes back and learns from it. Maybe get someone like Derek Chisora to come in and give him a few tips and help him out a little bit, because he's obviously suffered a few of the big defeats in his career. But Daniel Dubois could be finished if he doesn't get his head right. He actually, if you think about it, his career could be destroyed after Joe Joyce practically took his heart out of his body. That's practically what happened. I couldn't believe what I was watching.
Yeah, I agree with you a little bit there. And I also agree a little bit with Rope-a-Dope. I agree with you what you said over there. Some people are never going to be able to come back from that. And I believe that Daniel Dubois is in a bad place now. But I also believe that Rope-a-Dope, because where he was ahead in the fight a little bit, and he was doing well in the fight at some point until he wasn't anymore. And I'm just going to say this. I think the rematch is the only way to rebuild Kangaroo. Because if he doesn't go back to the drawing board and come for that rematch, they're not going to forgive him. I hope you realize that. Fans are toxic. So I'd like to touch on Rope with that. But Kangaroo, what do you think of that? They're not going to forgive him if he doesn't come back and redeem himself.
I think if he lost going out on his gum shield, I think he probably could have went on with his career another direction. But to lose, I mean, the way he went down on his knee, that's a history-defining moment for him. That'll be on his record for the rest of his bloody life. But the question is, I've never really rated Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois. I've never rated them, so they're my lower tier top 10 fighters. So we'll see how the cookie rolls, mate. Hope he comes back and does well.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to you, Kangaroo, but we've got loads of messages coming through in a sec, and I want to go to Rope-a-Dope of what he thinks about what you just said there, that, it is what it is. At the end of the day, he might not ever come back from this. So how do you see him to rebuild from this? And what I'd like to touch on is what route does he take? How does Daniel Dubois get back to rebuild? Give me a route, Rope-a-Dope.
Look, I think it's quite simple. I think the only way, I think the longer he takes to go back to Joe Joyce, I think the more it's going to affect his credibility. I think what he needs to do is he needs to right that wrong. That's the only way out. Every fighter that loses, they need to go back to that fight and they need to right that wrong. And that's exactly, Daniel Dubois is no different. No one's going to give him any special treatment. This is the hurt game. And we know how this goes. As you said, the fans love you obviously when you're winning, but if something like this happens, questions are asked. And right now he is under a microscope in the boxing fraternity. He's under the microscope. He needs to make that right wrong. And I think without that, he's not going to get his credibility back. If he comes back, absolutely walks through Joe Joyce, I think people will say, okay, whoa, he came back, what a comeback. And people will start getting excited about him again. He needs just probably one or two solid wins and people start getting behind him again. But he needs to get back and take over Joe Joyce, because at that level of heavyweight in the UK, right now, Joe Joyce is the one holding the torch, not Daniel Dubois.
Yeah, but how does what? Who would you match him up with? I mean, people say that Derek Chisora would probably put a dent in Daniel Dubois after seeing that the man's got quit in him. I mean, I just want to know if he doesn't get the
Mm.
rematch. If he doesn't get the rematch, what's his rebuild route? What's his yellow brick road? Where do we get him to be the fan favorite to get in title shot again? Because I'm going to say this, and I know I'm a bit harsh, and I'm one of those harsh fans from England. But if I see a quitting a man like that early on in his life, when I've already explained some of the great fighters achieved everything before they got in injuries themselves and quit later on in their life, this man hasn't achieved nothing. He hasn't achieved anything in the boxing world right now. And he's been given a lot of money. They've cooked him like he's the best thing coming out of Anthony Joshua. So we have to appreciate what round
Yeah.
the world are going to think. See, like what Kangaroo says. What did you think of Daniel Dubois before the way he lost, Kangaroo? I'd just like to touch on that.
I'm gonna be honest with you, and I heard what you said before, and this is what I'm saying. I agree with you. I don't think he has the fundamental skills to become a world champion. I haven't seen anything that gives him X factor to become a world champion. For me, he looks like a look. This is just, I know it's harsh, like you're saying. To me, he looks like a pumped up bodybuilder that has 1, 2 body shots and come forward. He doesn't have. I don't know. There's something about Daniel Dubois that's not clicking for me. Honestly, I it doesn't click for me for Daniel Dubois. I do not rate him. I won't watch him fight again. I don't think he'll become a world champion unless he becomes more versatile with the way he fights. I mean, to get dominated from the jab, mate, and not respond. I mean, I couldn't believe what I was watching, man. I was so surprised. He got dominated by the jab.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean, it's true though, because let's be honest. If that was a fighter from another part of the world, we'll be saying the same fucking thing. Kangaroo, we're saying, what the fuck? He got dominated and he couldn't adapt.
mm.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, I think the
I have
route.
to agree with. I, sorry, I have to agree with Kangaroo. I can't see him at the moment like becoming a world champion. Not with he looks too stiff, and he needs to get some springs underneath those feet. There's an old lonely road that boxers travel to when they find that something's not quite working right, and that's the USA. Maybe that's a route for him to take. If he's not finding Joe Joyce again, maybe he needs to go out and remap himself and then find some bounce in his footwork and a little bit of, find a trainer that can work with his style and help him in his style because he was just too stiff. He needs a bit more than that. He looks like he almost looks like a little bit of an old Mike Tyson when you look at him sometimes. But the fact of the matter is, at the early stage of Mike Tyson was bobbing and weaving. I mean, this is what people forget. Someone like Mike Tyson was bobbing and weaving. He wasn't the biggest of heavyweights, but he was bobbing and weaving, and he was hard to hit. The only time Mike Tyson
Mm.
started losing is when he became stationary because it was easy for people to hit him. And this guy's still young, and he's stationary now. So this certainly isn't going to work for him. Judging by the style that he's got right now, he's not going very far. Something really fundamentally needs to change with him. He's young. Maybe, I don't know, can they change him a little bit right now? Maybe he's young enough right now to have some changes made to him. But, a couple more years, that's it. You're not going to, old dogs, new tricks. You can't change them.
Hey, I
Correct.
just want to get to another brother, a very knowledgeable brother of mine in boxing. Is that you, D Jefferson?
Yeah. Um,
Man, I didn't expect to hear your voice today. Let me just tell Roper Dope and Kangaroo, D Jefferson been in and out of hospital, but he's been grinding boxing the same even when he's been coming out of hospital. Is everything all right, D?
yeah, everything's great, bro. I was just sliding through the hit the light, show you some support really, but I was listening a little bit to what you guys saying. And I just want everybody that's listening in to keep a perspective about this concerning Daniel Dubois. Uh First and foremost, he's 23 years old, and quitting on that fight could mean two different things because it's all about an individual. It can propel this kid to pure greatness or it can ruin him forever. We don't know until he continues. See, the fact that he's 23 years old, think about back when we were younger, we may have quit something and then said, no, fuck that. Let me dig down deep. And then we were super successful, right? Roberto Duran Nomas, but he had much success after. So, we can't just, you know, throw him in the toilet, like say, oh, now he's a quitter, it's over. The thing is this, man, all of these guys that get in that ring, they're super special guys. It takes a special man to get an orbital socket broken and continue on. We saw Jamel Herring quit when his eye detector was disattached, and but we see some guys that fight through it, like the Sugar Rays and the Kelbrook, you know, but it doesn't define them. We have to see what they're gonna do later, especially when they're this early. This is something that he could get into another fight and he gets that thing cracked, right? And I want you guys to think about this. This is the first time he's been hurt like that as a young fighter. And once he gets healed up and he gets through the doctor and he said, hey, this is not so bad. It's okay. Yeah, I got it cracked, but I'm okay. And the next time he gets in that ring and face that adversity, he can have the mindset, fuck it. The doctors will take care of it. I'm taking his ass out. We never know. So let's be rough on him because he did quit. But let's also understand that that doesn't define him. So I'm going to leave with that. Hey, shout out to Rapstar, everybody on the panel. I got to go lay down and get some more rest.
Hey,
All right, you too, brother.
all love, D, and I'm gonna catch you up on your show soon. Just send me an email, bro.
All right, bro. I'm not going to be on for a couple of days, bro. Probably Wednesday or Thursday, I'll be back at it.
Okay, well, if you want a day where you want 3-4 of us to come and cook it while you're just letting the show run, we can do that for you.
No doubt, no doubt. I appreciate you, Rapstar.
Yeah, D, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. And yeah, listen, D, this is Roper Dope as well. Roper Dope, subscribe to D's channel. Can you tell everybody where your channel is?
I'll do that, man. Just send me the link after. I'll subscribe. Nice meeting you, man.
All right, appreciate you, Roper Dope. All right, guys.
All right, bro. Take care, man. Yeah, what do you feel about that? I want to start with Kangaroo from Australia, man. We're being really harsh and really tough, and the boxing fans are bad like that. They support you 1 minute, you lose like that, and you take a knee. He ain't gonna be kind to you. So, some respect. How do you feel about that? That being a boxing fan. Go ahead.
I'm going to be honest with you. I did what D just said. I disagreed with everything he said, to be quite honest with you, because but everyone put in your head for a second, who the hell is Joe Joyce? What has he done?
I mean, let me just touch on this. Joe Joyce has got a big amateur pedigree. He was an Olympian. Joe Joyce also is trying to fast track his career because he came into the professionals late. And as you appreciate, he's been trying to get him through, like just get himself into a position. And I think he's done that now, hasn't he?
Yeah, well, correct.
But you guys didn't think much of Joe Joyce? You didn't think much of him before this fight?
I've watched the heavyweight division quite closely, as you know, because I keep up with it. Only the heavyweight division, and I've never had Joe Joyce in my top 10. And I still probably don't rate him, but he probably goes into number 10 or 9 at the moment because after watching that fight, he showed a different side of him. He can actually technically beat someone. But again, it'll define Daniel Dubois to how he returns. I do agree with D. He'll come back better, or he'll come back weaker, and he might be crap. He might just be a quitter forever, or he might come back and just completely walk through Joe Joyce in the rematch. But I do agree, Rapster, to go back and touch back on what you said before, what route he should take. I think it's the only route that's available right now is the automatic rematch for the Commonwealth and British title. If he doesn't take that rematch, he'll never be able to unturn the fault that he just did on dropping on one knee and quitting because of the eye. He should have went out on his gum shield, and that's just me.
And there's a lot of fans like you in England. There's a lot of fans like you. That's exactly what they're saying. That when it comes to the crunch, Daniel Dubois is not going to shine anymore. He's got quit in him. and we don't think he can get a world title anymore. So they're telling Frank Warren, stop feeding us this shit. You know what I mean? They're very, very, some of the fans are very evil like that, bro. And they're totally giving it to him. You know what I mean? There's boxing is like
Look,
that. But boxing don't give a fuck. When you lose, fans can be fucking crucial in boxing, bro. They can be
correct. I
toxic.
mean, look back at Anthony Joshua when he lost to Andy Ruiz in the first fight. How many people jumped off the bandwagon and said he's a pretender, he's shit, and blah blah blah. And then he came back in the rematch and did what he and did the fault and actually got the job done. He showed another side to his boxing. So it's doable, but I haven't seen anything in Daniel Dubois' arsenal to come back and outdo Joe Joyce. Because remember, he got dominated. It wasn't a close fight. He got dominated. So he'd have to do something drastically different to put Joe Joyce down, which he can't outbox Joe Joyce. He has to put him down. Now, Joe Joyce could hit hard and get him as well. So it's it's an uphill battle here for Daniel Dubois, but who knows?
So let me ask you this before we go to Rope-a-Dope. Are you saying now you're one of those boxing fans that you just think that the best thing he can do is rebuild and get himself in a title shot, but he'll never win the world title? Is that what you see in him? You don't think he can win a world title?
I've watched a few of his fights, and I'm not saying everyone. I mean, I've had people bloody tell me I've lost the plot, but I've never rated Daniel Dubois. I've never rated him. So he might win like a domestic couple of titles. He might win a European here. He might even win a regular heavyweight title or something like that, or a silver title. He might do something, but I can't see him beating any of the top tier heavyweights right now. So that means he won't be a heavyweight champion within the next 2 to 3 years. But who knows after that? Like we said, he's only 23, so he may become 28, 29, and there'll be no heavyweights available, and he may just win one by default. That is honestly how I feel about him. He's got no fundamental boxing skills, right? His jab is slower than my granny walking out the front door. If he was to face anybody with which of the likes of Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, or Anthony Joshua, or even Dillian White, Derek Chisora, he'll probably get busted up. Even Joe Joyce.
All right, let me get to Rope-a-Dope because I'm going to come back to you with the Joe Joyce. And you've got Joe Joyce in your number 10 in your top 10 now, is where you're roughly putting him. But I've got two fights for Joe Joyce, and then I'm going to come back to you and say, where would it rank him if he wins these fights next? But Rope-a-Dope, I just want to come to this. You've heard it yourself. There's mixed emotions about Daniel Dubois. We're talking to people. D Speak Your Mind Sports. He's from America. Kangaroo's from Australia. We're from England. There's mixed emotions about the man, Daniel Dubois. They don't think he's the real deal. And personally speaking, I think it's damaged his career, damaged his credibility. But there's one move for him that I agree with you. If he can go back to the drawing board and build some confidence out of nowhere and say he wants a rematch, he can change the game by doing that. I can honestly tell you, if he can at least have the guts to know that he wants that rematch and he was winning that fight, or he believes in himself he was winning, then if he thinks that he could come back in a rematch, he'll get some credit back from the boxing fraternity. How do you feel about that, Rope-a-Dope?
Look, we've seen this many times, with boxing. Whenever anyone loses, everyone starts questioning. If right now Daniel Dubois had lasted another 2 rounds and edged a win, nobody would be talking like this. I mean, we may have questioned, his technique, because to be honest, he was hit by a very, by a jab with a straight come forward fighter, that wasn't really giving many angles. I mean, you really shouldn't be getting hit with those. I mean, there's a couple of things here that we're talking about here today. Number one, did he quit? I think universally, look, if we're going to call a spade, and we really had to give a yes or no answer, and we were all pushed up against the wall, and we had to answer, I think everyone's going to agree, yes, he quit.
But I just want to be kind. Look, I want to be kind at the same time. And because we're from England, I don't want to be one of these fucking yes men. So I'm going to speak for myself. A lot of people around the world are going to say Daniel Dubois ain't shit. I'm just going to speak it because I speak in different podcasts. You see what I'm saying? You agree with me, right, Kangaroo?
Look,
But you get what I'm saying? They're going to say, hardcore fans are going to say, Daniel Dubois ain't shit. Am I right or wrong?
well, that's 100%. Especially people that have an idea about the heavyweight division. They're not people that are yes men. They're going to hit it hard, and they're not going to be pat on the back. You're okay. You'll be all right. Bullshit. You lose the fucking fight. You quit. You're going to be put on very very harshly. Everyone has to understand that. So it is simple as that.
Look, I mean, look, he's done the crime. He has to do the time. The fact of the matter is, where does he go from here? And the fact of the matter is, he needs to come back. I mean, we've got to see where he goes with this. Does he get the Joe Joyce fight again? I mean, quite frankly, was it something that was a split decision? No, it wasn't. Does Joe Joyce necessarily need to give him the fight? I mean, I don't know. I've not heard of a rematch clause in this. So does he have to fight him again, Joe Joyce? Maybe Joe Joyce wants to go into a different direction. Now you've got to look at another thing over here. Joe Joyce, Dubois was a 3-1 on favourite with the bookies, and you've got to look at something here. That why did the bookies price it at that? Why did they put it a 3-1 favourite for Daniel Dubois? There have been glimpses of Daniel Dubois in the past where you've seen him in exchanges where you can see he had a bit of fight in him.
Yeah, but that's against C- fighters, bro.
Correct. But
nobody in the top 15.
The fact is, there's been glimpses of, I mean, I don't know, maybe someone like Bermain Stavern. That's someone that I think Joe Joyce.
That'd be a good matchup. Bermain Stavern against Daniel Dubois for the rebuild. I like that.
I like because that. I'll tell you.
That's a good one, right, Kangaroo?
Correct.
That's because I've been sitting here, right, Roper-Dope, trying to think of a fucking opponent, mate. I've been sitting there scratching my fucking head, and you bring the perfect opponent, Bermain Stavern, who hasn't fought since he got knocked the fuck out, right?
Well, the fact is,
and he's always out of shape. Daniel Dubois, Bermain Stavern for a rebuild. Who's interested?
Oh, and it can happen in America.
That's a big fight in American Vegas.
Listen,
that's a big fight, right? Kangaroo, you better come from Australia, mate, and support it.
Well, look, they're both coming off of losses. All right, I think right, but Maine's not had any upper fight. They're both coming off of losses. It can possibly happen in America, which can give Dubois some exposure. He's a former world champion. He's fought Deontay Wilder. Maybe that's something that will give him a bit of light. But the thing is, does Bermain Stavern want to take on someone like Daniel Dubois? Does he want to take someone on like that? I mean, he has.
I think. Yeah, personally, doing that against Stavern, it's not going to prove anything for his career. So you need to throw him in there with someone that's trying to come up and make their name, I guess, because like Trevor Brown, Manu Char, even. They're the two that probably come to mind to me that aren't really heavy, aren't really what's the word? The world beaters, but they could put up a good challenge and maybe surprise a few. So you've got to be careful with Daniel Dubois how you put him against opponents now. And I think Frank Warren's to blame as well. But I don't know. I honestly don't know with him.
Yeah, I want to talk about this Frank Warren situation, Roper-Dope. But before I get to that, I just want to get to a couple of questions on the chat. Is okay, guys? So this transcended sports channel just sent a question that Daniel will come. No, I'm just saying what he's saying. Then Daniel will come back stronger, as he does have a heart of a champion. So he thinks he has a heart of a champion. He sees something in Daniel, so he will come back stronger. And also, D. Jefferson said the same thing, right? That he might come back way stronger than from this. We don't know. I just want everyone to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, press the notification. And, there's a few people, Ronald Finkley in the house, Tony Boswell's in the house. Thanks for the guys to just pop in. Asia Math in the house. Loads of questions here. I'm going to get to the questions in a minute. I want to go to you, Roper-Dope. Who's the opponent? What's the opponent? And then we're going to get to Joe Joyce. We ain't spoke fuck all about Joe Joyce. We've always been speaking about is the quitter, Daniel Dubois. And Right now, how does this quitter come back? And I'm not going to be harsh, but that's what the boxing world's saying. All right, we got to come to terms with it. How does he come back? Who's the opponent? Is it Bermain Simon? Is that his name?
Yeah.
Is that the opponent for Daniel Dubois for the rebuild?
Papa Stavern.
Look, listen, look, Bermain Stavern, the only reason I've mentioned him, you know, it could be a fight that happens in America. People know who Bermain Stavern is because he's fought Wilder twice. It's a name. It's a name on your record. He's a former world champion. You could look at a fighter like that, you know, go to America and maybe try and make a name for yourself. But the fact of the matter is, you've got to remember, look, he's just come off a loss. He's come off a loss to Joe Joyce. Either fight Joe Joyce again. If you can't get Joe Joyce, then maybe beat someone that he's beaten. I mean, I think Joe Joyce stopped the main Stavern. Fight someone that he's fighting. And if you do a better job of beating someone like Bermain Stavern than what Joe Joyce did, well, then you've sort of half made a case. Well, it took him this many rounds to get rid of him. Look how quick.
Man, he's going to get bad press for that fight, though, Roper. They're going to call it quit against quitter, bum against bum. They're going to be bad. People don't respect. Listen, people have stopped talking about Bermain Stavern. Last time I ever heard of him was about a couple of years ago. I thought he was given up a long time ago after I saw his body last. I mean, he came in obese in the last Wilder fight, and he had nothing to offer. So, I mean, if that's a rebuild for Daniel Dubois, right? I might have to little bit disagree. I'll say I don't know what it does for Daniel Dubois. I'd rather see Daniel Dubois and Derek Chisora. I want to see that fight because if you start backtracking this boy, he's going to get more hate. You need to build his momentum up, bro. We're trying to get Daniel Dubois to become recognized around the world again. You know what I mean? We got to rebuild this, brother. We can't just put him on the bench and bring out Bermain Stavern, whatever his name is again.
Well, look, if you want to...
that's what I think. I don't know. Let me get to... After you, I'm going to ask Kangaroo because I don't think it does fuck all for him in the game of boxing right now.
Look, if you put him out, you want him to bring his name back out, well, he's going to have to fight someone with a name. You know, you can't put him up against a nobody. He's either got to fight Joe Joyce, or you've got to have someone out there who's got a name. The reason I said Stavern is because people know him. And it's just a way of getting your name out there again, getting known in America. Or otherwise, I mean, I don't know. What's Hughie Fury doing these days?
Well, Hughie Fury is a much bigger name than fucking Bermain Stavern right now.
Well, I mean,
Bermain Stavern's history of the game, bro. He ain't got nothing to offer. I don't know. Let me ask Kangaroo. Do you guys still think? Are you interested in watching Bermain Stavern?
Look, I fucking know Bermain Stavern. He's practically, let's just say, a shit kicker at the moment. He's finished. He's history. Don't even talk about him. I think the short list for Dubois they should come back with. I was just looking at it and thinking about it. We're talking about credible opponents to come back with and put on your records. I'd say someone like Joseph Parker, Lucas Brown.
Joseph Parker's too much for Daniel Dubois. That's much. Joseph Parker should be fighting Joe Joyce.
Well, that's another good fight. But the problem with Joseph Parker...
I'm going to get to that with you, but you just got to give me an opponent for Daniel Dubois, and then I'm going to give you an opponent, and then we're gonna just go to the next subject, really.
All right, done. Derek Chisora.
Yeah, I like Derek Chisora, but I do understand where Roper-Dope's coming from. He just don't think, and he's just being frank, and you can tell that he don't think that Daniel Dubois is ready for Derek Chisora straight away. Isn't that true? Am I getting that from you, Roper-Dope?
Yeah, no, I think Chisora will eat him. I think Chisora will totally get rid of Daniel Dubois. I think he's too experienced. He's used to fighting huge guys. I know he had a tough time with Usyk recently, but with someone like Usyk, Usyk's very experienced. Usyk's got a great amateur experience.
You need to come back to your mic.
1 second.
Roper-Dope, I've lost you. I can't hear you, mate.
Can you hear me now?
All right, listen. If you can't hear me, just come back up. I can hear you again. Are you there?
Okay. Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, I
Fine.
can hear you again. We lost you there like an alien.
No, I could hear him.
Oh yeah, so he could hear you, but I lost you. But now we can hear you. Go on, bro.
Yeah, look, I mean, I mean, the bottom line is, sorry, where were we? What were you just saying to me?
No, we were
Credible
saying that
opponent.
Derek Chisora. Kangaroo said Derek Chisora for Daniel Dubois to rebuild. I said Derek Chisora, and you said that Derek Chisora is gonna fuck and kick fucking Daniel Dubois' ass. That's what you said.
Well, I didn't quite put it like that,
Yeah,
but
but
yeah,
I
I
like
would.
to put it like that on my show because I like a bit of tongue in cheek. You know what I mean? I like to wind. I like put it in a way where we got to be honest how some of the fans think, right?
Yeah. Okay. Well, look. Bottom line is, I think Chisora beats him easy. I think he's way too experienced. He's coming off fights. I think he's been more active. I just think he's had a much better list of opponents that he's fought. He's beaten a couple of like good fighters. I mean, who did he knock out that he knocked out clean? Was it Carlos Takam that he knocked out clean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
was Chisora's last best fight, I reckon.
Yeah,
I reckon that was his last best fight.
I mean, and Takam's a much better fighter than Daniel Dubois, in my opinion. Takam's been a much more durable fighter. But I mean, like I said, for me, yeah, he can try Chisora. If he beats Chisora, that will certainly give him a name. So yeah, I mean, it's an option. The question is, will they
Hey,
take that
Raptor.
option?
Yeah, Kangaroo.
You said before that you wanted to ask me two opponents that Joe Joyce beats.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that right now. As soon as he finished, I just wanted a big shout to Papa Kaplan's in the house, Miguel Robles is in the house. Everybody who's in the house, smash that like button. We're just talking about the Daniel Dubois situation with where he quit, and we're talking about Joe Joyce now. From what I'm hearing then, Rope-a-Dope, you're saying that Derek Chisora is going to kick his fucking ass. Stay away from Derek right now and try and find Bermain Stavern, who's bring him out of retirement or something, and maybe fight someone like Bermain Stavern just to get his confidence back. And I think we'll just stop it there, and we'll just come back to that another time, maybe on the platform again. Is that all right, guys?
Yep.
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, let's get to Joe Joyce, the man who actually did something, the man who actually was the guy that people had as an underdog.
The winner.
The man they had as an underdog. Remember that, right? Put some respect on Joe Joyce's name, because the man was actually an underdog. So what I'm going to say to that is, where does Joe Joyce go from here, and how does he put himself in the top 5, or how does he get himself into a position for next year? Frank Warren said that he should be in line for a title. Now I'm going to go with Joseph Parker, Andy Ruiz, even give me Philip Hergovich again, because I know he beat him before, or Usyk. Now, these are my 4 opponents. I'm going to come to Kangaroo for this one. Go on, mate.
Listen, the world's his oyster at the moment. He's got a lot of options, bud. I mean, and this is a good position for him to be in, for Joe Joyce, even though, so good win. Well done to him. Beat the golden boy, I guess, would you say? So the options that I'd have my top 4 that he should fight next would have to be Joseph Parker, Derek Chisora, Dillian White, Andy Ruiz. They're mine for Joe Joyce. I might even replace Andy Ruiz for Usyk, but
okay. I want to ask you, what did you appreciate about Joe Joyce in that fight? Did you appreciate his granite chin, just his durability, just his composure, just how he was mature in that fight? Did you see some stuff that you think can bring somewhere in that top 5?
I appreciated his ability to control the fight against an explosive heavyweight. I mean, his ability to compose himself and able to lead off with the jab, moved Dubois around a little bit, swipe the chin. When Dubois threw the right hand, he was able to move his face at the right time. Carry the shot. I thought that's very, very good technique as well. I think for me it was a well-rounded, completed fight, and I congratulate Joe Joyce for that. But whether or not it stacks up against anyone in the top 5, I don't think so.
Yeah, I just want to get to Rope-a-Dope, but before I get to Rope-a-Dope, Tony Boswell agrees with Rope-a-Dope. I think that Daniel did the right thing. Live to fight another day. He will come back. Nothing but respect to Daniel Dubois. So there is a mixed emotions. A lot of people still respect Daniel Dubois for going in there against an unbeaten Joe Joyce. He didn't have to take that fight. Remember, Frank Warren told everyone they could have gone different paths. So, you got to give him some. Some people look at him as a young guy, and he at least took the opportunity. Some people do believe in what you said, Rope-a-Dope. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Yeah. So I want to get you on the opponents of Joe Joyce.
Look, again, like Kangaroo said, the world is his oyster. He's got opportunities now. He's now obviously he's the one that people are now going to be talking about, at least on that level of fighters in the heavyweight division. I think Usyk, which is the obvious one that comes up. I think that will be. I mean, look, that's not a bad fight for him because Usyk's not the biggest of guys. Joe Joyce, I think what impressed me most about him is probably the punches that he was able to take. He didn't even look like he wobbled once. So I think out of everything, that was probably the most impressive thing for Joe Joyce. More than his boxing ability, it was more the fact that he's able to take a punch. And the way that he took them, so I think credit to him for that. But yeah, I would say Usyk's definitely a good fight. If he wants to start, when you want to start, having your name mentioned amongst the bigger fighters, and you've got to start mentioning the names that have been hovering around that division at the top level. So yeah, I would say Derek Chisora is another name. And I mean, I think again it comes down to, do you want to do you really want to take on someone like an Andy Ruiz? I mean, that would be a great fight. I mean, that's a fight people would turn on to watch. Because Andy Ruiz has obviously come away with a loss. Everyone knows he's quick. He's got a punch. I mean, someone will go down in that fight because Joe Joyce can stop people as well. So, I mean, if you were going to ask me what fight would you like to see, what I would like to see,
Yeah, as a boxing fan, okay, let me ask everybody in the chat as well, because there's so many other messages coming in. LT's in the house. What up, LT? Smash that like button, brother. And, so many people have just joined the chat. And I just want to see who else has just joined the chat there. LT and Jeff's in the house. What up, Jeff? Papa Kaplan's in the house. Just smash that like button for us. But yeah, I want to just get back to you on that, man. Joe Joyce seems like he has amazing options right now. Joe Joyce needs to have 1 or 2 fights in order to get himself in line for a world title. Who do you think he should fight? Who should be Joe Joyce's next fight? I'm asking the chat. Who do you think and who do you want as a boxing fan? Who do you want to see him fight? Because at the end of the day, Joe Joyce is coming out here to do great things right now. Now, I'm going to say this. Robido, you said it yourself. You would like to see Derek Chisora. What about Usyk? Usyk beat Joe Joyce in the amateurs, right? And Usyk, and they said that Joe Joyce was just a novice or something. I'm not sure. But I got to check. But I know he lost to Usyk, right? In the amateurs.
Yes, he did. He lost to him, yeah.
Right. So why not avenge that loss?
Well, look,
And
that's the
try and come back with that Usyk fight.
Look, that's an obvious fight that people are going to talk about because there's a history there, and when there's a history there, it's always something that makes up for a great story. So Usyk is the obvious option that they're talking about. The fact he's already called his name out, Usyk's new in the heavyweight division, so he's just trying to establish himself some more. And he's already beaten Chisora, and now obviously there could be another notable name in Joe Joyce. So that I think is the most obvious fight to be made right there between them two. He's already called him out, and there's a history there. That is the most obvious fight to be made out. Like I said, there's always some people might want to see Dubois again. Some people probably ain't going to be that interested again. I don't think that people are going to be that interested to see that fight again. So Joe Joyce would definitely, I think, would look at Usyk. Chisora is definitely another person that he could look at fighting. Other than that, you know what? I mean, like I said, there is then you get those guys who have
What
sort of
about
become
King
the
Kong
gatekeeper.
Ortiz? Would you like to watch King Kong Ortiz and Joe Joyce? How do you feel
Oh,
about that fight?
I mean, do you know what? I mean, that is I mean, King Kong Ortiz. I mean, that's a fight. I mean, I wouldn't back Joe Joyce against him. Not yet. I wouldn't back him. I mean, that's not if I was managing Joe Joyce, that's not the fight I would want for him. I'd rather him fight some of the other guys.
Okay, so you would keep Joe Joyce away from King Kong Ortiz right now.
Yeah, at the moment, because he's someone that I mean he's going to definitely be asking some questions of Joe Joyce. And it's something. Look, if he comes in and beats someone like that, Joe Joyce is going to propel himself up right to the top, and he's going to be talked about among everyone. Then, if he beats someone like, like Ruiz, or he beats someone like someone like an Uzek, any of these guys that he now starts beating, if he has a couple of fights with these guys on that tier, then all of a sudden he's going to start being mentioned as an opponent for some of the bigger names out there. But that's the only way he can go now. And to be honest, as a heavyweight and the age that he is, he's not exactly 23 like Dubois is. I mean, now's the time where he needs to start looking at some of these fights. How long has he got, before he starts getting to an age where he's going to start getting older? He's got a couple of prime years, 2-3 years right now, where he's prime years. I think, how old is he? Like 32, 33?
I
So he's
think
got a
Joe
few.
Joyce is over. I think he's 35. I'm gonna have to check.
Is he really? Well, I mean, well, then you need to hurry him even more, because he's certainly not going to be performing as good at 40 years old.
Well,
So
let me just let you know some of the chat. Some of the chat is saying that, look, Rapstar, what about Joe Joyce against Usyk? That would be a good fight. Like Jeff Lucita says that Joe Joyce against Usyk. Ronald Finkley wants Joe Joyce against AJ. Holy shit. Okay. I mean, Ronald Finkley wants to throw him in the deep end straight away.
I don't think he's earned AJ just yet.
Nah, he hasn't earned that. I mean, look, I've got some opponents lined up for Joe Joyce. Me old mate Joe Joyce, me old cocker. I'll tell you what I got for him. I've got for him 4 fights. And I'd see him, even the winner out of Povetkin and Dylan White again. If Dylan White wins, that's a really good fight. Joe Joyce, Dylan White. If Dylan White wins and redeems himself against Povetkin, that's a big fight, mate. Joe Joyce, Dylan White would be a huge fight in England if he comes back and wins, right? I see the Derek Chisora fight. I like that fight. Because, Derek Chisora will always test a fighter. You know what I mean? And he's a good gatekeeper. You know what I mean? Derek Chisora, I got respect for him. He's a good gatekeeper. You sure Usyk had a bit of trouble with him, and Usyk had to, work hard to win that fight. You know what I mean? So I got Derek Chisora, Usyk, King Kong Ortiz, Andy Ruiz. These are fights for Joe Joyce to be in a great position. Do you see what I'm saying to you, Robert?
I mean, look, Dillian White, Derek Chisora, right now, both coming off of losses. I mean, it's going to give us some kind of a measure about where Joe Joyce is. But someone like Usyk is someone that, he's not beaten. He's coming off a win. And there's a history there. I think that's more the better opponent for him to fight right now. And then if he needs a little break and he needs a little bit of time before he wants to test some of the other guys, then he can go, and then he can go and take something of what you would call a bit more of an easier fight, or something a bit more, around the doorstep of those top guys, and start looking at someone like, a Dillian White or a Povetkin, depending on who wins out of them.
Hey, some of the chat are saying, especially Ronald Finkley, he's saying that he likes the Joe Joyce and King Ortiz, and these guys are from America. So it goes to show you that people are very confident in Joe Joyce right now, Robido.
Well, you don't know,
see what
mate. I mean, well, are they confident, or do they think that it's going to be a real tough fight for him? I mean, what's the reason why are they putting
It's
him
fans,
together?
and fans want the best fights. Now, fans are going to want really good fights for Joe Joyce. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, are they going to put him up against Ortiz? Maybe. Let's see. I mean, if they put him up against him, Ortiz is quite experienced. He's been, and he's been in some pretty competitive fights. I think before Wilder stopped him in the first fight, I think Ortiz was ahead. I
mean,
think some people are saying Ortiz
Ortiz
ahead.
was winning in the Wilder fight until he got knocked.
Yeah, and he has got knockout power, Ortiz. He's got one hand power. I think he's got that kind of power where with one punch he can take someone out. So, I mean, that would really test Joe Joyce's, granite chin, as they call it. So, yeah.
The chat just answered to you. You just asked a question. The chat just answered to you. Ronald, Finkley, LT. They said, yeah, they want to see a tough fight. They want to see good fights. Because Joe Joyce is not a young puppy, mate. He's not a young chicken. He's he's in his age now where he has to do things in the next year or two.
Yes, but look, listen. A lot of people will talk like that and say, "Oh yeah, just chuck him in." Well, why stop there? Why not just chuck him in with Wilder? Why stop there? Why not just put him in with Tyson Fury right away? You've got to build a fighter up. You can't just rush him into that level straight away. You've got to slowly bring them along. You've got to manage them. You can't just straight away chuck him into that much of a deep end. He's just come out of a good fight. He's had a win. There's a lot of good fighters in between, and he's got a couple of years. He can have three or four fights in that time. Why can you not have a couple of guys in between? What is Dillian White a bad option? Is Usyk a bad fighter? I mean, I'm not saying put him up against the bum.
Yeah, but Roberto, you got to appreciate, right? This man's 35 years old. Joe Joyce is now in a position that they said next year he can be in line for one of the titles as long as he takes the right fights. So why hold him back? The man's on a momentum. The man just beat Frank Warren's superstar. The man just beat the guy they call the next Anthony Joshua.
Tell me something.
And let's not forget this, Roper-Dope. Let's not forget this, Roper-Dope. I love your boxing knowledge and everything, but you got to appreciate this, mate. They were saying in London, remember, that Daniel Dubois knocked down Anthony Joshua in sparring. He's the biggest thing coming out of boxing. So we can't run away from all that, bro. This man, Joe Joyce, defeated all odds. So how come the man can't go and fight some big fights? Why should we hold him back with a King Kong Ortiz, with an Andy Ruiz? Why should he have to have a couple more fights, bro? I'm just saying, you know what I mean? You see where I'm coming from? Because the fans want to see him now, and they want to see Joe Joyce.
I'm losing you a little bit here. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back.
Yeah, but can you hear me now? Can you hear me, mate? All right. Well, look, it's just like I said, that at the end of the day, you can't just say that Joe Joyce has won this fight and he can't go on there and do great things and hold him back to have a couple of fights. He got to fight now. He got to fight those big names. You got to put him up there, bruv. You got to put him up there with Andy Ruiz, King Kong Ortiz. You got to at least put him up there with one of these guys so he can get into the top 5. So he can keep that momentum going, bro. We just can't hold him back. We got to move forward now. It's time for Joe Joyce. Joe Joyce is the man right now. It's all about Joe Joyce moving forward in the game. He's recognized all around the world. People which weren't supporting Joe Joyce before, they're definitely supporting him now. Yeah, Roper-Dope, are you back, bruv?
Yeah, I'm back, man. I'm back.
Yeah, I can hear you. But you see what's going on in the chat and, on the channel. And you got to understand, like, fans are different out here, bro. They want to see big fights now. Because Joe Joyce is a man who's made a name. He's a man right now who's defeated all odds. So he needs to go out there and fight one of these big names to get into the top 5. What I'm saying, bro, why hold him back? Let's go now. Let's go for the big thing.
Is fighting Usyk holding him back?
No, Usyk's a big fight.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. The most obvious fight for me, where there's a history there, is to fight someone like Usyk. There's a history there. They both fought each other in the Olympics. He lost him in the Olympics. There's an unfinished story there. There's unfinished business there. They're both in the heavyweight division. I think that's a good fight to be made. Usyk's trying to make his name in the heavyweight division, and so is Joe Joyce. That looks like the most obvious fight for me, rather than someone like Dillian White, Ortiz, or Derek Chisora, who are all coming off a loss.
Look, I get what you're saying, bruv. But look, as far as I'm concerned, right, Usyk's the one which is a good step up. If Joe Joyce, can you imagine 2021 Usyk versus Joyce? That's a big fight, bruv.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the fight to be made.
And that's the fight we want to see, bro. And that's the fight that we want to push for. We want Usyk against Joe Joyce in England. We want it in Wembley. But by that time, will the fans come out? Hopefully the country changes. We're not in a pandemic anymore. We're not locked down for sure. And, things can get back to normal. And all of us fans, again, back in London, mate, going to support, the grind, man. I can't wait. I can't wait. You just reminded me of a fight, which could be a great fight right now. Usyk versus Joe Joyce in Wembley when the fans are out again. Let's go.
Well, especially because Usyk's been down here as well. Usyk's just been fighting a couple of guys over here. He's trying to collect some heads while he's down here as he enters the heavyweight division. Joe Joyce is the man who's being talked about right now. Why wouldn't Usyk want to fight him? It's the most obvious fight to be made, in my opinion, over any of the other fighters. Dillian White, I think, is trying to have a fight with.
He needs to redeem himself, bro.
Well, he's trying to have a fight with Povetkin anyway.
Joe Joyce, for me, is the more momentum than Dillian White now.
Well,
for me, I'm riding with Joe Joyce now. Like, after Fury and Joshua, because let's be honest, right? I don't want to brag on nothing. I like to keep it simple and plain on my channel. I love boxing all over the world, but England's controlling. They're right now number one in the heavyweight. You see what I'm saying? So we can't, at the end of the day, the momentum's there, bro. Joe Joyce has got to come with the Usyk fight. I love what you said. You just hyped me up. Joe Joyce, Usyk, 2021. Who don't want to see that?
I think that's the fight to be made. And I think, to be honest, if we had a poll and we asked all the fans that who would you want Joe Joyce to fight, and you put Usyk's name over there, I think people would go for Usyk. He's a quality opponent. You beat a fight like that. Everyone's talking about Usyk as like a real special fighter. If you beat an Usyk, you're going to have the respect of all the boxing pundits, all the commentators. Everyone's going to be talking about you. You've beaten Daniel Dubois. Okay, fine. That was the other young heavyweight. It was out of you two anyway. I'll give both fighters respect for taking the fight against each other, because at a point when they didn't really have to fight each other, they could have gone a different route. They both decided to put it all on the line and go up against each other. So I want to give respect to both of them for that. Like I said, we can always go on about what happened, but that fight's done now. We've got to look ahead. And I'm definitely saying that the fight, I think everyone's going to want to see. And I think there's a taster for it anyway, with regards to unfinished business, with a history there. And that is Usyk. I think that's the fight everyone wants to see, rather than, like I said, Dillian White's going to want to go back to Povetkin. He's going to want to make that wrong, right. So that's definitely one that he's going to want to go to. Why would he want to go and fight Joe Joyce when he's going to be thinking, hang about, I need to go and beat Povetkin? Because people aren't going to let him forget it. So that's where Dillian White's going. Chisora's come off a loss of Usyk, and I think recently there was another fight of someone that was being talked about, and literally as soon as Chisora walked out the Usyk fight, he was saying, hey, I'm ready to fight this guy, a week later after he's just fought Usyk. So I think Chisora's just looking for paydays now, which is fine. Who wouldn't? But that's where I think Chisora's sort of state of mind is at the moment. And then, like I said, then you have, you've got someone like an Ortiz. But again, who needs an opponent like that? He's big, he's strong,
You know, he's got power in his hand. He can knock you out with one punch, and he's come off a loss. What is there to gain in a fight like that? You know, every fighter pretty much is navigated in the right route to get to where he needs to go. I mean, who needs a fight like that? What does that really do for Joe Joyce? If Joe Joyce went in, fought Ortiz, beat him, what are people going to say? Yeah, well, I mean, Ortiz was old anyway. Ortiz was on his way out anyway. You know, so who needs that? Why take a fight like that? You know, you've got to look at your career and where it's going. You know, there's a much nicer fight to be seen with a guy who's, you know, unbeaten at the moment, and he's got, you know, people talking about him. He's just beaten a name in Derek Chisora. If Joe Joyce comes and can do damage or do something against Usyk, well, straight away people are going to start ranking Joe Joyce above Chisora. So he's at least, and Chisora's often been for quite a while been seen as a gatekeeper of that division. So that straight away puts him at least up at that level. And Chisora was fighting, you know, the top heavyweights. So what if Joe Joyce has beat him, and Joyce beat someone like an Usyk who beat Chisora? Well, all of a sudden Joe Joyce starts being put in that conversation. Someone's going to say, okay, we'll give you a shot, and someone will take him in, and some of those top guys will look at Joe Joyce. They're still a bit raw, and they'll think, hey, you know what, he's not that experienced at this level yet. I'll take him now, rather than wait another year and a half where he's a bit more primed and he's going to be better. So I think that's the route for him to take.
Hey, look, I totally agree with you. And, you know, that's definitely something that I'm in the momentum of. But I will tell you this, mate. Joe Joyce with Usyk is everything to gain. Right now, Joe Joyce, 2021, against Usyk is everything to gain. Even if Joe Joyce went and fought Dylan White, there's more to gain with Usyk. You get what I'm saying? They've got a history in the amateurs. Joe Joyce is on a momentum. He wins that Usyk fight for me, right? He getting ready for a world title. It's one fight. He only needs one fucking fight, bruv.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's no fucking going round the bush. It ain't all about fucking go fight fucking Derek Chisora.
No, that will
King
put
Kong
him in the conversation. But that's what I'm saying. That's the right fight.
I want to cut that conversation off because I've got people here right now. What's this? Let me check this for you. Real SB90 says Usyk versus Joyce. So can you imagine the showdown for all the fucking fans, bro, all over the world? Usyk versus Joe Joyce now.
Look, I think it's a unanimous.
It's a big fight.
Look, I think everyone's going to be quite unanimous on this. That's the fight to make there.
Yeah, that's the fight. Joe Joyce can get greatness now, yeah, in one fight. He don't need to have 3 fights, bro. My guy Daniel Dubois, who quit in the fucking ring, bro, because his eye was hurting too much, because he had a broken eye socket. I get that, man. Some people can't deal with that. He was young. You know what I mean? But when you come to making the fights right now, Daniel Dubois got to have 3 fights until he can get back somewhere. Daniel Dubois might have to have 3 fights. And out of those 3 fights, 2 of those fights have to be meaningful.
Yeah, I mean, they really need to think about where they're going to go with him. It's going to be quite interesting to see, actually. After he's been beaten, they're not going to want him beaten again. So who are they really going to put him up against where they feel he can win, and where they feel you know, he can climb back? So it's going to be something definitely to sit down. I mean, I think they're definitely going to be scratching their heads right now, thinking about what to do with him right now. At the moment, go back to the drawing board. I think he's definitely got some things to work on, and you know, he's young. I hope he can come back.
I mean, for sure, but his fights are going to be, like I told you, Daniel Dubois is going to get tested again. And Daniel Dubois' days are going to come again. And now he got already 1 broken eye socket. And you do realize, bro, let me tell you something. My brother in boxing, Rope-a-Dope, I'm just going to say it as it is, bro. When you quit once, you're gonna quit again. His times are limited now, bro. And the one thing I would say about Daniel Dubois is if he got some real deal in his soul and he wants to rebuild quick, he needs to stop at Joe Joyce going and achieving greatness to go and get the Usyk fight. And he needs to be the guy who needs to go and chase that rematch. And that's the only way that he would get respect in the whole boxing community in the boxing world.
Look,
Because you can't speak as a hardcore fan. Neither can my friend. I'm talking for the fans and the casual fans who pay for this business. He's done. Daniel Dubois fucked. And I'll tell you this now, bro. He's fucked. And I'm sorry that it sounds a bit harsh, but I gotta keep it the way I do raw on my channel. I love having great conversations, but I love being real about it. You know what I mean?
You know, I hear you. I hear you. Look, bottom line is, this is why I was saying he needs to go back to the drawing board, because what we've seen right now, I mean, I don't see that getting him to the top. He needs to come with something else. That's not going to get him to the top. I mean, if Joe Joyce is jabbing your head off, I mean, what would someone like a Tyson Fury do to you? It's just not happening. He's not ready. He's not ready for that. But you know, like I said, I mean,
but Pedro, Daniel Dubois was a big thing for us in England. I mean, they were making out he was gonna be better than any fucking Joshua. Frank Warren was fucking selling him, bro. I'm talking.
Well,
he was fucking selling him, bro.
Look, it's
bro,
Frank
he was
Warren.
selling him like a fucking hoe.
Look, it's Frank Warren's
the
job.
baddest fucking man in the planet.
Yeah, but look, it's Frank
Let's
Warren's
keep
job.
it real. Look, Miguel Robles. You see Miguel Robles? Read this comment. He says, I agree with Rapstar, bro. Daniel Dubois fucked. He needs a rematch. And if he don't get it, he's gonna get more and more and more fucking criticism. We can't think like hardcore fans, bro. We gotta think like fucking casual fans, bro. We have to, and that's what's gonna make you see what it is with you, Rope the Dope. I know you've been around the boxing fraternity, and you've even met boxers, and we're not even gonna go there, right? But what I'm saying is, bro, we gotta speak for the casual fans. They're the ones who are the ones running the game, not the hardcore fans. And you got a different way of outlook looking at boxing. But we got to look at what's the most people which are looking at boxing. And our casual fans are not going to be interested in Daniel Dubois unless he takes a rematch.
Well,
I think so.
Yeah, but it's not up to him. He can want a rematch all he wants. And that's what, as you say, casual fans, that's what they need to understand. He can want all the rematch he wants. It's up to Joe Joyce now whether he wants to give it to him. It wasn't a close call, split decision. You know, that's a fight that later on can happen again. And that's if Daniel Dubois keeps winning and keeps coming back to prove that, hey, you know, I deserve another shot. Because for him, that's unfinished business. Just like Dillian White has to fight Povetkin again for that unfinished business. Like Anthony Joshua beat what's his name? That guy that he lost to. So just like that, you know, losses need to be avenged. So, but it's the case of, is it in his control? It's not in his control. He can want all he wants. So the bottom line
was there no rematch in the contract, Ropedo?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, nobody's talked about a rematch. I mean, I guess
so there was no rematch. There was no rematch in the contract of Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois.
Well, if anyone out there can shed some light on that, I mean, I'd be glad to know. I mean, I haven't looked at that, but I'd be interested to know if there's anyone there in the comments that can let us know. Does anyone know if there's a rematch clause? I've not heard anything about that. When we heard the commentary after the fight, nobody discussed the rematch clause. So to me, I don't think there is one, because if there was a rematch clause, I think they would have been discussing it post-fight. There's been no mention of that, so I don't think there is a rematch clause.
So let me just tell you, I got some messages on my channel, and I want to share with you how some of the casual fans or even boxing fans have been looking at this since his loss. There's a lot of people said, Rapstar, We don't see a way back for him. He's not going to be world champion anymore. They sold him to us like he was the best thing ever coming out of the England after Joshua. I got messages that I can share with you that some people have said, we don't want to see nothing unless there's a fucking rematch. The man's done. The man's, I'm not going to go into some of the messages. People are fucking nasty. You get what I mean?
Look, he needs to earn the rematch.
Yeah, but he got to earn a lot of respect. He's fucked.
Exactly.
He's
He needs
fucked.
to earn the
You
rematch.
can't talk
It's
about
not.
you can't talk about Daniel Dubois because you support him like I do from London, because I'm a big fan of Daniel Dubois, but we got to keep it real and facts, because we got people around the world who go through and breeze through these platforms. We got to make sure that we at least appreciate the game of boxing and give it to them real and raw. You see what I'm saying? And sometimes we just got to be real with it. The man's quit. He's gonna get fucking real fucking slated for that, mate. And he's getting
Well,
fucked.
look.
He's
I
gonna
think
get real slated for that, no matter how big of a fan you are of
Look, we
Daniel
all know
Dubois.
that. Look, we all know that, and I think it's already been ascertained that he quit. I think I said that earlier. That I think unanimously, I think everyone, if you had to really put him to task and ask him, did he quit? I think everyone's going to agree with that. So I think we're all on the same page there. But the fact that he's got to have the rematch, he's got to have the rematch. I'm saying it's not up to him, and people
Okay,
need to
people are
understand
answering your question from earlier, because if I don't answer this question, then it'll roll through and I'll miss most of these messages. Somebody messaged you and said, Robidope, just looked up the rematch. There was no rematch in the contract. So that answers
that. Okay.
all that. So
Okay.
Miguel, that's thanks to Miguel Robles.
Appreciate that, Miguel.
Miguel just told us there was no rematch. And that tells you that they were so fucking confident going into that fight. Frank Warren fucked up. And let me tell you why Frank Warren fucked up for us in England. He had two heavyweights. You know why he put him in with Daniel Dubois? I'm going to keep it real here. He thought Daniel Dubois was going to smoke fucking Joe Joyce.
Agreed.
Now, let's say me and you just in the pub having a beer, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about boxing. Frank fucked up. I'm going to speak like that on my channel. You know what I mean? Frank fucked up. Frank's a fucking wanker. He totally fucked up Daniel Dubois. And I'll tell you what he's done. He put himself in a bad position because he's got a lot of fucking money and a lot of fucking ching ching walla behind him. And he's fucked up. And now he's lucky he got Joe Joyce to extend his contract. And he quickly did a Don King move. Go and read up what he did today. He fucking running on Joe Joyce and made him sign up with him again. And Joe Joyce has just got a good deal from Frank Warren. It's online right now. Frank fucked up. The rising star, he put him in too early, bruv. That's what he done to him. Let's keep it real, because we got everybody watching and they know that Frank is a fucking dumb fuck. Look, Ronald Finkley just said Frank is dumb as fucking fuck. They get what I'm saying. Because if you think about it, that was Frank's money cash cow, bro. He fucked up. Don't you agree?
Yeah, no, that's something that he had his money on Dubois. I think it was quite obvious for everyone to know that he had his money on Dubois there, and it's backfired on him. And I think Eddie Hearn's been saying some stuff, and I think I saw something today where I think Frank Warren was fuming about it. But look, man, your fighter quit. I mean, expect to get some shit now. Your fighter quit. You expect to get some shit. I mean, are you really surprised you're going to get shit now?
Yeah, but you see how sly Frank is. Frank's a fucking wanker, mate. He fucking was letting him go, right? He was letting Joe Joyce go, but now he's re-signed him again. Because he knows now his money's with Joe Joyce. And I'm just letting you know, Robidope, he was cooking fucking Daniel Dubois, right? Like it was the biggest thing ever. So he can make this money. But he fucked up with the fight. The power didn't win it. Daniel Dubois is a one-trick pony. He fucking coming in with his power and he couldn't even adapt to a jab. Let's keep it real here, bro. I like Daniel Dubois. But Daniel Dubois don't fucking belong in the top 10. He's fucked. You can't even rebuild this man, bro. Let me tell you how it's gonna be to rebuild him now. Hard. Fucking hard.
Yeah, I mean, look,
He's fucked.
look,
I don't
it was,
care what anyone
look,
says on my fucking channel, bro.
look, listen. The thing that,
Dubois
the
fucked
thing
at the
that,
moment.
look, the thing that concerns me about Dubois, okay, is that, you know what, he didn't get knocked out by some flash punch. It wasn't no punch that he didn't see coming, and he just got knocked out cold, like Lennox Lewis got caught by Oliver McCall many years back. It wasn't one of those punches. You know, anyone can get caught with a punch. This wasn't one of those moments. So, you know, it's a different situation. This is something where, you know, I mean, Joe Joyce has put it quite bluntly and put it quite right and quite mercilessly, to be honest. Probably, like you said, the way the fans want to hear it is, he said, "I took his heart." That is what he said about him.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, yeah, 1 second, bro. Yeah, at the end of the day, man, it was bad. You know what I mean? Frank Warren has misjudged. He miscalculated. He made a wrong move. He thought he's in with the money, and he messed up. And Frank Warren now has to eat it because he had to re-sign Joe Joyce, right, to make sure he give him a good deal, because he's giving him a really good deal now, apparently. Because Joe Joyce is re-signed with him already. And you know that was Joe Joyce's last fight with Frank. Frank was going to actually let him go. If Joe Joyce got knocked out, Frank was going to let him go. You get what I'm saying? I feel that way about it. Because look, today, right, Joe Joyce seemed a bit happy about the new deal. I'm going to go back and watch the interviews, all right? But it seems to me, Frank Warren, it backfired on him. He totally got, you know what I'm saying? He went in with his top guy, but the other guy won. So now he has to eat it. And to rebuild Daniel Dubois is going to be not just expensive. How do you rebuild from a guy who fucking quits, bruv? On the stool. Man stood, listen, the man was just, listen, he didn't just quit. He was in the round. He was in the round, bro, throwing shots. Do you want to go back and watch the fight with me, bro? He was in the fucking fight throwing shots. And the thing was, even such a late reaction, bro, he took like 5 seconds before he thought about it in his head. And then he went and took a knee, right? And then a man sitting there for 10 seconds.
Yeah, I think, well, everyone saw that. Look, I'm going to have to say it again because it really sort of brought back some fond memories for me. But you know what? On a side note, how nice was it to see Mike Tyson and Roy Jones? I mean, this is what you call class. This is what you call pedigree. You know, I mean, just look at those. I mean, we had 2 heavyweight fights that night. And just look at the difference in the two. I mean, left me with a great feeling watching those two. I'm actually looking forward to watching them again.
Hey, man, can I tell you something? If you want to move on to the Tyson fight with Roy Jones, tell the whole chat and the panel. Did you enjoy the Tyson and Roy Jones more than you enjoyed the Joe Joyce and Daniel Dubois?
Well, as they say in England, does a one-legged duck swim in a circle? Yes, it does. So, yes, absolutely. I think they surprised everyone. I think they surprised everyone. I mean, what Roy Jones did. I mean, Roy Jones showed some flashes of old, the way he was dancing around in the ring, and you know, and Tyson was coming in. Okay, there were 2 rounds of fights, but what do you expect? You know, these guys are in their 50s, but the way they really put it on the line with each other. I mean, seriously, you've got to take your hat off to them. You know, I mean, I've just fallen in love with these guys all over again. I mean, they've brought it back. I don't think
Tyson is one of my favorite fighters of all time, bro.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was the reason I got into boxing.
He's one of the main reasons that I got into boxing.
Yeah,
and then I had a lot of boxing fraternity friends, like yourself and like many others, and then videotapes. Do you remember the videotapes?
Yeah, of course I remember the videotape, those old VHS tapes. So we used to have the old VHS tapes, guys, and I remember as a kid, literally staying up till like the early hours of the morning and watching these fights. The old Riddick Bowe, the Evander Holyfield fights. I mean, wow, that is what you call heavyweight fights. Wow.
Mate, they were the days of boxing.
Honestly, guys, if anyone hasn't seen the heavyweight fights of Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield and some of these guys, and seriously, watch these fights.
Oh man, the fights on the VHS tapes are just, you know what, they're legendary. They were legendary fights that we watched. And don't forget, I had to go and do research because I was never in the era of Sugar Ray Leonard, Marvin Hagler, Roberto Duran, Thomas Hitman Hearns. I was never in that era. I was a bit too young for that. So I had to watch videotapes.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to educate myself from those fighters in the 70s, in the 80s. Man, let me tell you this, bro. Can you imagine one of them taking a knee like this? Them guys were knocking people out at 20, 21, 22, right? Look at what Tyson did at 20 years old. He was the youngest world champion ever lived at 20 years old.
19.
And you can't compare these Daniel Dubois, these Joe Joyces, and all these other fighters, bro, who are coming up. And you look at a Tyson when he was coming up. Man, this guy took a knee, bro. Tyson at them ages was knocking down big men in the first fucking round and second round. Tyson was a man that was ferocious, bro. And these guys were building these guys, Daniel Dubois and all this shit with Frank Warren. And look, I'm true media, bro. I ain't gonna talk no rubbish anymore. You get what I'm saying? I gotta talk real here. And the reason where true media comes into it is we gotta keep it kind of like facts. Wait, Papa Kaplan says, I put the girls to bed, rap star. You can speak freely. Yeah, you know what it is? I respect my subscribers, bro. One of my subscribers said, keep it low, man. The little girls are up, you know what I mean? So I had to switch it a little bit. But Papa Kaplan's so kind enough to tell me that I can become raw right now because the girls are asleep. So, Black and Brown's in the house, bro. Smash that like button. Lisa Bells is the most knowledgeable lady in the platform, bro, in the game. Smash that like button. Everybody smash that like button, bro. I'm just cooking it here with a good, knowledgeable boxing fraternity brother from London, like we do it over here in England. You know, we're on a lockdown, so we're doing graveyard shifts over here. And I really appreciate you coming on to the show today, Roberto.
Yeah, it's like 4:45 in the morning over here. But you know what? I've got to show the love to the guys out there in the US and around the world. For people that are watching, and to Rapstar's channel, subscribe everyone to this channel. We're gonna have some great chats on this channel, and we hope that you like what you hear.
Well, we might have something coming up in the future. Rope-a-Dope is a very knowledgeable brother in the game. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but if I can speak freely when I say that we met Mike Tyson, Floyd Mayweather. Stop me anytime if I'm saying anything that we haven't done, right? Floyd Mayweather. Then there's going to be people that I'm going to tell you. Manny Pacquiao, Joe Calzaghe. Let me tell you who else. Miguel Cotto. Remember that one? Miguel Cotto I've met.
Of course.
And I know that you met Miguel Cotto too. So, and we're just talking about fighters that we met internationally, right? And we got all these pictures and videos, and hopefully one day, bro, you're coming on a new podcast, you said, in the near future, right?
Yeah.
That's good, bro. That's good, man. And we'll be looking forward to that, man. We definitely be looking forward to supporting you on that one, bro. But you know what, man? I gotta tell you, bro, we gotta keep it real and raw on Rapstar's channel. I've kept it raw here. I hope you appreciate that, because some of my subscribers are raw. They appreciate it as well. When I need to tame it down, you saw what the brother told me. The girls are up. Now he told me the girls are asleep. I might turn up a little bit raw for the last little bit of the show, if that's okay with you, Rope-a-Dope.
That's cool.
How I roll, bro. That's my show. That's how I roll. Sometimes I turn it up. Sometimes I turn it down. I just love playing around with it. I love boxing. You know how passionate we are about boxing, bro.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We put boxing in our heart. I remember when I met Roberto Duran, bro. The man was walking so fast, yeah. I never seen a man in that age walk that fast. in the hotel, bro. I never seen a man in 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, bro, walking that fast in a hotel, bro. Roberto Duran, when I see Roberto Duran and I met him, that was legendary, bro. And remember I've met so many boxers, another 30, 40, bro. And I know you have too, right?
Yeah. I mean, one of the ones that I'm really proud of meeting, which I feel great about, is Pernell Whitaker. May he rest in peace. So, you know, I was really proud of meeting him. It was a
Oh, you
special
met
moment.
Pernell Whitaker? I
Yeah.
never met, bro. You made me jealous.
Yeah, it was a
And you know what the
moment.
funny thing is? You got the pictures and everything with him, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll bring them out in good time.
Oh man, you met legendary Pernell Whitaker, bro. Look, people are sending messages right now, bro. R.I.P. to Sweet Pea. Oh my God, bro. Pernell Whitaker, you met that man, and oh shit.
You know what?
Where was that, in
I mean,
Vegas? Was that in Vegas?
Dude, I'm telling you. You know what? The thing is, you've got to remember something. As you know, I don't like to talk too much, but as you know, I'm an old school boxing fan, and you know, I love the sport. And basically, I happened to be at the Canelo Alvarez and Amir Khan fight in Vegas, and because you know I've travelled for my fights for many years. As you know, we've travelled together for fights as well.
Many fights.
Yeah. So,
We don't even need to talk. I remember. I also remember when we went to watch Nazim a few times, and
yeah,
you know we used to go watch Naseem Hamid. And you know what? At the end of the day, it was. I know we were big fans of Naseem Hamid, and there was a time that Naseem Hamid was one of the most destructive, one of the hardest punchers in the featherweight. When he was focused, the man was knocking everybody out, bro. I remember the guys that he knocked out, bro. Them mans he knocked out their jaws. Them most of the fighters that Naseem Hamid fought before he fought Barrera, he dismantled their jaws. Do you remember
dude,
that?
of course I remember it. I was there to see a lot of it. I mean, I was there at the fight in Cardiff when he stopped Steve Robinson in Cardiff. I was at that fight, sitting ringside, so I managed to see that fight. I met Prince Naseem after that. It was a special moment. Met him, it was brilliant. So really enjoyed that. And then I saw him take the IBF title off of Tom Boom Boom Johnson. That is who he got the title off of. And I happened to be in Vegas when he fought the great Marco Antonio Barrera as well. It was sad to see that one because you know I went there as a Nassim fan, but you know I can't take anything away from Marco Antonio Barrera. What a fighter that guy is! You know that man is something special and definitely Hall of Fame is all I can say about that man.
I mean, you got to understand, man. Naseem Hamid was one of the best fat featherweights who ever came out of boxing in our time. You know, I was a young guy. And I remember growing up to watching Naseem Hamid. He got me back into boxing after Tyson. And don't forget about Nigel Benn. Nigel Benn got me into boxing with Tyson. Do you see what I'm saying? And I remember when Nigel Benn was retiring for us in England, Naseem Hamid just sprung up. He was the biggest thing coming out of England, London. Sheffield. Like the biggest thing that you've ever heard of. And we've never, ever heard of a featherweight in our country, right? Who's making the biggest noise and making money like 5 million a fight and 3 million a fight. And don't forget, the man used to come out to music and dance like he owned the world. Remember?
Well, I mean, everyone remembers his somersaults in the ring and the way he would come out. I mean, how can anyone forget his fight with Kevin Kelly in Madison Square Garden? What a fight that was! I mean,
Kevin Kelly, Naseem Hamid was a big fight for us in London,
I'll never forget that night. The hairs on my neck were standing, you know, when I saw that fight. What a fight that was. The knockdowns on it, and you know, but he came through it. You know, I mean, that was his moment in America, and he came through it. So fantastic, you know. But you know, then again, Nigel Benn. I mean, look what he did. You know, in America. You know, when he fought Aaron Barkley, and you know, I mean, brilliant. I mean, we've seen some amazing fights. We've been in some great eras. We've seen phases of boxing, and you know, you're old when you see when you see a boxer start his career and then you've been through the end of it, and then you're seeing more fighters come and do their careers and they've ended theirs, and that gives you a bit of an idea of how long we've been, in love with this game and how long we've been following it.
Yeah, I gotta tell you, man, I've been watching boxing from a little kid, man. And I remember there was times when we went to certain fights, and like I told you, the Nassim Hamid Kevin Kelly fight was fire fucking works. That was huge. That was one of the best fights of the year. I think that was the fight of the year. And to be honest, it was like just to see that era that we had in England, man. Do you remember the era we had? We had Nigel Benn knocking everybody out. We had Nassim Hamid knocking everyone out. We had Lennox Lewis coming as a champion. We had Frank Bruno who beat Oliver McCall. Remember?
Yeah, I was at that fight.
You
when
was
Frank,
you was at the Frank Bruno and Oliver McCall fight.
yeah, when he won that title, I was there. Because I remember, Nigel Benn was there cheering him, Prince Nassim Hamid. So if anyone wants to look at that fight, just in case they think we're talking nonsense here, you can watch the fight and you'll see after Frank Bruno won that fight against Oliver McCall, you'll see that Nigel Benn and Prince Nassim Hamid are in the ring. So I remember it very clearly.
And do you remember Frank Bruno used to come with these bright orange suits and those bright red suits and cheering behind Nigel Benn? And do you know he used to do illegal things? He used to come right next to the ropes like Mayweather does for his fighters.
Correct. Yes.
If you look at the fights in the days when Frank Bruno used to support Nigel Benn, he used to come right to the ring and he used to do illegal. Like, that was illegal, but nobody used to say nothing of Frank. And Mayweather does that when Tank fights, he goes right up to the ring.
Correct. Well, I mean, look, one of the most vivid memories that I've got of Frank Bruno is when Nigel Benn was in the fight with Gerald McLennan, and how can we ever forget that fight? Probably the most brutal fight we've ever seen. But that fight, I remember when Nigel Benn was coming back and fighting his way back into the fight. You just remember Frank Bruno at the edge of the ring, and he was with both hands thumping the ring. I'm sure that was probably vibrating in the legs of Gerald McLennan and Nigel Benn at that time. But what an amazing era of boxing that was.
I mean, not just was it amazing, man. I mean, you got to understand right this now. You just went into memory lane with Rapstar, and you went into a memory lane with me, which was the heart of boxing when guys were fighting. And don't forget with the fighters which were coming out of America at that time. Don't forget what Mike Tyson used to do to us. He used to make me wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I used to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, get ready to watch the fight. Do you remember those days?
Yeah, of course I remember
3 a.m. We used to wake
up
at 3 a.m.
Well, let me tell you the fight that I was at, which was my first fight that I actually went and saw in Vegas. I happened to be at the fight where Mike Tyson took the chunk of air out of Holyfield. So I was actually at that fight. I think that was 1997 in the MGM Grand. So I was at that fight, and just honestly, I've been to so many fights in my time. I've been to so many fights, Nassim fights, Nigel Benn fights. I mean, look, Anthony Joshua fights. But I'll tell you something. I mean, I must say the Anthony Joshua and Klitschko fight was electric, the atmosphere there. But honestly, the most electric atmosphere that I've ever experienced at a fight, that has got to be Mike Tyson and Evander Holyfield. And that fight was dubbed The Sound and the Fury. And I think I've still got the T-shirt somewhere. That fight and what happened in it, honestly, I mean, there's things that happen there that, they don't talk about on TV. So, guys, what you're about to hear on Rapstar TV is, I'm going to drop something down here for you guys, which you're only going to get exclusively on Rapstar. And that is that a little thing that happened after the fight is all people saw was Tyson, like, going crazy and going for Holyfield's ear. But what people didn't see, and only people that were at the fight saw, is when Tyson was finally left the ring and he was leaving, there were some guys that were also attending the fight. And they were dressed like, how can I put it, pimps. They had the loud coloured suits on, with matching bowler hats. And as Tyson was walking back through the tunnel, you know, the seating was right above. You know, when people see that little lane that fighters come out of, and you know the fans are looking from on top and they can see the fighter come out. So this is where these guys were. So I was on one side and these guys were on another. And what they did is, as Tyson was walking back in, these guys decided to throw a drink over Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson went absolutely crazy. He turned around and he was just about to go. And I'll tell you something, there was about 8 police officers there. And believe me, I saw 8 police officers all move back. Nobody wanted to go near him, because who would want to go near Mike Tyson in that mood? And all these guys moved back. All these guys moved back. And Mike Tyson was looking up to see who these guys were. And these guys were standing there, like looking like, all right, what are you going to do? I mean, they had a death wish, honestly. And Mike Tyson, like, I remember there was a black curtain that was hanging down. And, you know, in the frustration of it all, I remember he grabbed this curtain and he pulled it, and the whole curtain came down from the side of those seats. And it was the curtain that was on my side. And that's how he went back into the tunnel. And then because, you know, I knew that he was going to be coming out the back, I ran over to the back, and this is where all the stars were coming out. There was Madonna there, there was Michael Douglas there was Roseanne, George Clooney, Sylvester Stallone, all these guys were there. And I remember standing at the back. Now, you know, I was such a big fan. I don't know if people remember the magazines back in the day. There was Boxing Monthly, Boxing News. I mean, we're talking 90s here. So, you know, so I knew the cars that he had and everything about him. And what happened is, while we were waiting and seeing all these stars go into these big buses that they all came together in, I saw a Range Rover down about 100 yards away, and I saw it, and I saw that where that car's going to end up stopping, because I saw where the traffic was. And I basically said to my friend, I said, let's run over there, because the car's going to stop over there and we're going to be able to see Mike Tyson. And this is right after he's bitten Holyfield's ear off. So the Range Rovers pulled up, and Lord and behold, it was Mike Tyson in the car. And believe me, he had a white towel in his mouth, and he was chewing on this thing with his like gold teeth. You could see him aggressively chewing on this towel. And what happened is, there was this reporter that was basically standing next to me, and me being a big fan, I was just saying, you're the champ, Mike, you're the champ. And this reporter guy who was next to me, I mean, these guys, I mean, I don't know what's the matter with them. They really do have a death wish. But this guy comes out and says to him, you're a chump. So Mike Tyson looked over like and said, what? What did you say? And the guy said again, you're a chump. So Mike Tyson basically opened the door of the car, which is where I was at the time, shaking his hand. And I stepped back. And I'll tell you something, the door had opened on the car. This reporter's still standing there, not moving anywhere. And you see Mike Tyson trying to get out of the car. And as he's got out of the car, he's realized that his belt's still on. And he's basically sat there, and he's literally like tried to, you know how someone would quickly look like, oh, look left and right to see, how can I literally take this off quickly? You know, when someone looks left, right a couple of times to see like, where's the buckle for me to take this off? His body, first of all, he was huge. And I'll tell you something, his body moved left to right at a speed that I've never seen before. It was frightening, the speed that he moved left and right in to try and get it off. And it was the kind of speed moving left to right, how you'd see him on the punch bag when he's punching his hooks left and right on the punch bag. And it was with that speed that I saw it up and close. What a frightening moment. And I'll tell you something, but what an experience, something that I'll remember till they put me in, to the day they put me in the ground. It's just phenomenal.
Wow, not many people met Mike Tyson like you did, bro. And at the end of the day, you followed Mike Tyson, and you still follow Mike Tyson like you did, bro. And you've met Mike Tyson more than a couple of times in your life. So you're a blessed individual. And I got to tell you, man, I met so many boxers too, but I never met Mike like you did. You know what I mean? I never met Mike Tyson like you did, bro. But at the end of the day, how did you feel about Mike Tyson coming back after all these years, bro? I
Look,
mean, fucking
look.
Mike Tyson hasn't been in the ring since 2014, innit?
Oh, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think
Hey,
someone was saying,
Loving Eight send a message to you, bro. He goes, "That's a great story, man. Thanks for that story." But that's exclusive on Rabstar because you've got great memories and great stories. And the reason why we're teaming up is because we've been in the boxing game for a long time, and we're gonna come with a podcast soon. And I'm sure all these stories and pictures and everything, we'll put it out to everyone eventually. How do you feel
yeah,
about
well,
that?
yeah, I feel great about it. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, look, I know we've talked about this many times, and and obviously there's a lot of boxing history and boxing knowledge that we share from a lifetime of watching this for over 30 years. And obviously, I've had a lot of interaction, just like you, with a lot of the boxers, and there's a lot of stories there. So this is a good place to come and meet up, and I'm sure it'd be nice to come back onto your show again whenever you want to give me a call again. I'd be happy to come along and share some more old stories for the subscribers.
Well, we're all pals in boxing world anyway, regardless of anything. And we're a different breed in this game. You know what I mean? Because me and you go back a long time when it comes to boxing. Anyway, let's just talk about the boxing between us, right? And I know one thing is we might be able to do. We'll bring another, knowledgeable. We got a lot of people in the game, but we can probably put something together where we can do one thing once a week, or we could take it to once a fortnight. Do you know what I mean? And we can make a little show until if we want, we can put it fortnightly if you want.
Yeah, I'll be happy to do that. I mean, as long as the people want to sit there. I mean, if you subscribers liked what you heard today, I mean, let us know, and I'll be happy to come back again.
I mean, how many people ain't gonna like that? You're gonna share all your knowledge of meeting Tyson,
Yeah.
meeting all these other amazing athletes. You love the game yourself, and we've got a special show going on because I know who you are in boxing, but the people don't know who you are. They don't know how much knowledge that you've got in the game and how many, you probably got 30, 40 pictures that you've got with your own boxing pals. And let's not forget, bro, there's no point keeping it away. How many years you've been training and we've been training, you know what I mean? It's like that. That's your field, you know what I'm saying? So I'm sure at the end of the day, once you come ready and on the podcast, we can share amazing stories that we've seen in boxing. And that's what I'm ready to do with you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the love. Obviously, it's great. It's great. It's been a great chat today. But yeah, there's a lot more stories and things there that we can share about our boxing and what we've seen. But yeah,
So
no,
before we wrap it up tonight in a
yeah,
bit, yeah, we've caught everything up from our domestic fight. We know where Joe Joyce has got to go.
yeah,
He's got to go and achieve some greatness now, right?
yeah,
Daniel Dubois is going to be a hard rebuild.
yeah,
It's going to be tough.
yeah.
Frank Warren, he fucked up. Frank Warren fucked up, right? Frank Warren, I love you, Frank. You know why I love Frank Warren? Robert Dunn. He'd been giving us the fights before Eddie Hearn and that when we were kids.
Yeah. Frank's been a good servant to the game, and he's put some great shows together, and we got to remember that. How can you not respect that?
Yeah, Frank Warren is the man who put those fights on before Eddie Hearn ever came in the game. And Frank Warren was the Eddie Hearn, or bigger than Eddie Hearn before in the game, especially in the 80s and 90s for sure, anyway, and the early 2000s. But Frank Warren fucked up. What a wanker, Frank. What a wanker. It is what it is. And I just think to myself, Joe Joyce has got greatness to come. Daniel Dubois, he in a bad position. They're going to call him a quitter. He got to try and get a rematch. Daniel Dubois is going to have a lot of criticism going now in the boxing fraternity. So it's going to be tough for the boy. But one thing I will say is you got to touch on the fights for all of our American subscribers and viewers, bro. And then we'll just wrap it up after all this. Let's get to it. This is it. We're done with the fights, what's happened. And respect to Mike Tyson and Roy Jones. Maybe I'll do a Mike Tyson, Roy Jones special review next week or something. How's that sound?
Yeah, cool.
Right.
Sounds
And
good.
let's just quickly wrap this up. From Rope a Dope, straight from England, knowledgeable brother in the boxing game, in the fraternity. Let's go for it. Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, Errol the Truth Spence. It's that week now, bro. It's all going to Texas now, in America. We're from England. The fight's in Texas. Let's finish it off for all our American viewers. Let's hype up this fight for this week. I love the fight, mate. You know what? Errol Spence is one of my favorite fighters right now. Errol Spence is a pound for pound guy for me. Errol Spence, Danny Garcia. Errol Spence has come out of a life, like you could say, life and death situation. You saw the second clips of the pictures. You saw how bad he looked. Let's go to this fight. Rope-a-dope special. Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, December the 5th. You guys are lucky in America. You got fucking fans. We ain't seeing that shit yet. And hopefully one day we'll get to that. Let's go for it. Let's cook it. Danny Garcia, Errol Spence, mate.
Right. Well, let's start this off. First of all, I want to say something. I hear a lot of people say, oh, boxing's just dead in now. What are you talking about, guys? Boxing isn't dead. We've seen some great fights. Look at the fights. If you just look at them, some of the matchups that we've had some great fights. So boxing is well and truly alive. So, you know, and here's just another example of it. Errol Spence, Danny Garcia. Nice fight. Now, the thing is, I don't think there'd be any too much of a question mark about this had there not have been the unfortunate incident of Errol Spence going through that horrible accident. If it was not for that, I think everyone would quite happily say that, oh, Errol Spence is just going to beat Danny Garcia. I think the only thing that has really brought in an element of doubt is because this isn't more a case of, oh, what's Danny Garcia going to do? Now, Danny Garcia's, you know, had some great fights. He's a former world champion. He's beaten some great names. I think probably his outstanding performance was his fight against Lucas Matisse. He's obviously beaten the likes of Amir Khan and, you know, like Zab Judah, and he's fought some other good names. And but, you know, he's been tested by some names that, you know, haven't been, you know, big names out there. But this is obviously a sound name in Errol Spence. Errol Spence is a solid fighter. Only Errol Spence really knows how he feels. I guess only until he really enters the ring will he really know how he feels and how good he is and how much that accident has affected him. But, you know, the bottom line is, I hate to say it because I like Danny Garcia, but, you know, this is Rapstar's channel here, and he likes to keep it real. So I'm going to keep it real, guys. Keith Thurman fought Danny Garcia, he beat him. Sean Porter beat Danny Garcia, he beat him. So the two notable names that Danny Garcia has recently fought, he's lost. Okay, now we have a fight in Errol Spence turning up. Okay, what do you think is going to happen with a fighter? I mean, you know, Timothy Bradley was talking about this recently, and he was saying, oh, what's really Danny Garcia going to come with that Errol Spence isn't going to see? What's he really going to come with? First of all, is he even going to get near Errol Spence? You know, with Errol Spence jab, is he really going to get near Errol Spence? So that's the first question. Second of all, what's Danny Garcia going to do? Come with his left hook? Come with a right hook? I mean, there's really his big punches, right? The ones that he knocks people out of, like he knocked Amir Khan out. You know, like he knocked out Rod Salka. So these are really these are the punches he's using. Now, look, he's a good fighter. He's got power. You know, he's a former world champion. I wouldn't completely say he's someone who just has no chance. So he's a former world champion. He's been with some top names. So you can't completely write a guy like that off. But, you know, where's the sensible money going to be? It's going to be on Errol Spence. You know, accident or no accident, I don't think Errol Spence would be coming back if he thought he wasn't fit enough or he wasn't feeling right. He did look quite drained out, and you know, when I've seen him recently, you know, maybe he's trying to make weight. He did look quite drained out. I don't know if he put on too much weight previously while he was off recovering. But, you know, the smart money's got to be on Errol Spence. You know, I just think he's too good of a boxer. I think Danny Garcia has already tasted defeat. You know, with Danny Garcia, this is really going to be a telling fight for him. it's a make or break fight for me. Because he's already lost to two top names, as we said, in Sean Paul and Keith Thurman. If he loses to Spence as well, I mean, where does he really go with after that? So this is really, for me, a make or break fight for him. But I'm still going to say, accident or no accident, the smart money's going to be on Spence.
Hey, I agree with you for most of that, for sure. I mean, look, let's keep it real here for everybody, like you do, and I like the way you did. I know at the end of the day, Danny Garcia is a great fighter. I ain't taking that away from Danny Garcia.
Cracking up a bit.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Just one moment.
You should be able to hear me now.
Yes, it's just crackling a bit. 1 second.
All right, let me get that sorted out for you. Give me a sec, mate.
Okay, do you want me to come back in?
No, can you hear me now?
Okay, let me come back in.
Can you hear me?
Give me a minute.
Okay. Well, while the brother comes back in, and we're doing a graveyard shift while we're locked down over here in England, I'll just say to you, Danny Garcia, Errol Spence is a big fight for us now. It's a huge fight for us for all over the world, I reckon, right now. It's a great fight. Danny Garcia, Errol Spence, Errol the Truth Spence Jr. It's on. It's December the 5th. I can't wait. I'm doing a live for that show. I might even have a couple of friends in the boxing fraternity on that show. So, yeah, man, we're going to be watching that fight. It's a big fight. I hope you guys are ready for that fight on December the 5th. How you guys feeling about Danny Garcia, Errol Spence? Rope-a-dope was cooking it right there. Something happened to the mic. I've had loads of people in the back, but I've had to keep it real because, me and Rope-a-dope are just going to cook it before I leave soon. I want to touch on this fight, Rope-a-dope. The fight's big. It's big in the States, man. One thing you got to respect is that the States is still carrying on with some big fights. You have to appreciate in the pandemic, we haven't had big fights like we would have had. Fights were slowed down. You know what's been going on in England. The whole fucking thing's like ghost town in the sports industry, half of it, right? Let's keep it real. Danny Garcia, Errol the Truth Spence. Errol fucking come out of that life and death situation in that Ferrari, mate. That Ferrari went up, spun about 4 or 5 times. A lot of people would never have made that. Did you know, Rope-a-dope, that he got knocked out? He was totally passed out when he came out of the car and he got injected out of that car. Did you know that?
Yeah. I heard it was really bad. From what the stories were. Thank God he's alive and he's back. I think he's got a young daughter, hasn't he? So
no, he's got 2 daughters, and he's also just had a baby boy. And he just came on, I think it was ESPN or something. He said, "Yeah, look, my baby boy's changed my life. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to give him a better life and my daughters." So he's got a baby boy now. He just had a baby boy, mate. But carry on.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a motivating factor. I mean, I think anyone out there with children, I think, when they know they've got children there, I think, it only boosts your confidence even more and makes you fight even harder. So, I think he's coming back strong. I mean, he's got an experienced trainer in Derek Gainer. So I think it's going to be
His trainer's name's Derek James.
Derek James, yes. So
yeah, Derek James. I've met Errol. I met Errol Spence.
Yeah.
I met Derek James. I met Errol's father. They're great people, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you right now.
He's got he's got an experienced team behind him, and like I said, I don't think they'd be putting him in there. I'm sure he's had plenty of hard sparring to test him the best as he could. So I think he'll be ready for this fight. But from what everyone says, and like what Keith Thurman said about this, is he said that he doesn't hit like Sean Porter. Danny Garcia, they're saying he hits a lot harder. Well, I think it was Keith Thurman that was saying that. He said Danny Garcia hits hard. So after a body that's been quite broken up, being hit by those bombs by Danny Garcia could be quite crippling. But again, it's a case of, does Errol Spence allow Danny Garcia to hit him with one of those, swinging hooks?
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm there. Can you hear me?
I mean, yeah, you know Danny Garcia's got one of the best hooks in the game.
Yeah, certainly
You get
has.
what I'm
But
saying?
yeah,
And let
he
me tell
certainly
you, Danny Garcia at 140, a lot of people say he's got a way better resume than fucking Terence Crawford. Let's keep this shit real. And you know, Danny
yeah, but
Garcia, when he was at 140, he was fighting people in their prime. A lot of people say that what Danny Garcia did to Lucas Matisse was never the same. He was never the same. And Lucas Matisse after that quit himself. We're talking about quitting about Daniel Dubois. Do you remember when Lucas Matisse fucking quit? He quit, I think, against Pacquiao, and then he became a quitter against what's his name, Victor Postol, and that gave him a bad limelight because when Danny fought fucking Lucas Matisse, Lucas was the man.
yes, exactly. I mean, that's why I say it was his best win for me.
I mean, Danny Garcia had a great, not a bad resume at 140. He also went in a welterweight, and he's never looked bad in a loss, Roberto. You think about this, son. You just between me and you. You see when he lost against Porter, he was never looking bad. He was in that fight. He won rounds in that fight. And some people swinged it to Danny Garcia.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, they don't agree with a decision there. I think I heard, I saw an interview on Angel Garcia, and I think they weren't happy about the decision, and they were saying, well, we don't really count that as a loss because they feel they were robbed. But nevertheless, I mean,
And Keith Thurman hit Danny Garcia. When's the last time you watched that fight, Roberto?
But the Danny Garcia one, I think just recently.
No, when Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia. And I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you this right now. Keith Thurman hit him with nearly everything, bro. Danny Garcia got a granite chin.
Yeah, Danny Garcia can take a shot for sure. I mean,
So,
he's never been stopped, has he?
so I want to ask you this now, because I go around different parts of the world and talk about fights. And at the moment, I want to ask you a simple question. If Danny Garcia wins, will you take it away from him because of Errol Spence, the Truth Jr.'s car accident? Please answer me that.
Look, I think everyone will. I think everyone's going to say Errol Spence isn't the same. It's his accident that caused him. Maybe he hasn't got over the effects of it. I think everyone's going to say that. I don't want to sit here and say to you, "Hey, nobody's going to say that." I think everybody knows that. People are talking about it before the fight. Why wouldn't they talk about it after the fight?
I mean, you got to appreciate this though. Errol Spence Jr. He's looking fucking cut, and he's looking just as good, and if not as good, better than he's ever looked. Right?
Yeah, Rapstar.
And,
I just want to
let
address.
me go ahead.
I just want to address one of your subscribers who's basically saying Danny lost in Puerto Rico too, but they gave him the W. So it's Miguel Robles that is saying this, and I think the fighter there was Mauricio Herrera. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it's Mauricio Herrera who he fought in Puerto Rico. And you know what, Miguel, I think I'm going to agree with you there. I think Mauricio Herrera was robbed, and I think Danny Garcia did lose that fight.
Yeah. So I mean, we got to look at it this way, bro. On the record, it is what it is. Danny Garcia had a couple of bad nights, but also you got to remember this. Danny fights with the opponent. The better the opponent, the better Danny fights. Now, I just want to get to this, bro. We got to get to cook this, bro. You already just said that if Danny Garcia wins, you're going to take it away from him because Errol Spence has been in a big car crash.
We're having a bit of a signal problem.
I just want to come to this, and this is not casual. This is hardcore boxing fans. Because I know where you're coming from, and I've spoke to many other hardcore boxing fans. These are not casual. And they saying that if Danny Garcia wins, some people are going to take that credit away from Danny.
Yeah. Well, Danny knew that before he took this fight.
So what you're saying is at the end of the day, no matter if Danny does the best lifetime performance ever, some of the boxing world's not going to give him that credit.
Probably not, but it doesn't matter, does it? Because if he does win, there's titles on the line.
Yeah, but it does matter because, you know, you got to appreciate right now, Errol Spence, the Truth Jr. again, is that dog. Remember Errol Spence when he was hungry and he wasn't in those nightclubs and we didn't start watching these videos where he was with these rappers in the clubs wearing his big chains. That's when Errol Spence started changing, bro, for me. I became a big Errol Spence fan years ago. When I see him dealing with people like Algerians and Bundus and people like that, he was putting them to sleep. You got to remember, Errol was the geezer who was with the Man Down promotion. Remember, he was calling himself Man Down?
Yeah, yeah.
All that aura about that hunger, about that younger Errol. That was the Errol which a lot of people loved in the game. He was a dog. And if that Errol's back, he beating Danny Garcia. And he might give Danny Garcia his worst loss. And I don't see nobody stopping Danny Garcia. I haven't seen anybody put Danny Garcia in a position to stop him. Have you?
No, I mean, look, I think at the same time you've got to look at the mindset of Errol Spence. The guy came close to death, and sometimes when that happens, it gives you a new invigoration to maybe go out there and fight. It sometimes wakes you up. So if he was partying hard or doing anything like that, this may have been the wake-up call for him to realize that how close he came to death. Maybe it's made him, feel closer to God again. So I definitely think he's going to be coming strongly with this. I think he knows he needs to take this seriously after what's happened to him. And I almost feel like he probably feels he's had a second chance. So I think Errol Spence is going to be coming, in the best shape he possibly can.
Yeah, but bro, Errol Spence has definitely stayed away from that negative society. You don't see him in those in that way of life anymore since what happened to him. I know it's bad what happened to him, but the man was moving in clubs. The man was moving around a bit. You know what I mean? He got a bit excited too quick. And like Mayweather keeps telling everybody, bro, you got to be pretty boy before you think you could be Money Mayweather. And everybody wants to be Money Mayweather, but they don't want to do the pretty boy. So at least Errol's back on track. You get what I'm saying, bro?
Well, I want to ask you a question,
Rap star, yeah.
I want to ask you a question. Do you feel Danny Garcia can land those wide hooks to Errol Spence? I mean, they are, to the trained eye, going to be quite telegraphed. The question is, do you feel that he's going to be able to land those on Errol Spence?
Yeah, sorry, man. I was sorting out my mic. Can you hear me, bro?
Yeah, yeah.
Danny Garcia definitely can do something inside the pocket. Danny Garcia needs to get in the inside. Danny Garcia is a fighter that doesn't just have a left hook, bro. He got a good jab too. He can also knock you out with a right hand too. You saw what happened to Brandon Rios, didn't you? I'm just saying, Danny Garcia might not be great at one thing like amazing, but he's good at every little thing. You see what I'm saying? And
I mean, look, I'm sure it will be competitive. But, I mean, who's your money on?
Errol Spence, man.
Yeah, I think the smart money is going to be on him.
Before the car accident, it was going to be Errol Spence.
Before the car accident, I think everyone would be talking Errol Spence. The only reason I think right now, a big reason why Danny Garcia has been given any chance, is the fact that Errol Spence has had this bad accident.
Well, I'm gonna let you know this. Errol Spence, the only thing I'm just saying is, right, the only negative I get about this is where he got, I read up that he was knocked out after his accident, and the injury that I saw the second time round were way worse than the first mug shot. Do you remember the first mug shot?
Yeah.
The second mug shot were way more worse. You could see that Errol actually did suffer some injuries. He got new teeth in his jaw. So his jaw took a whack on that floor. You get what I'm saying?
Oh,
I don't, and I understand that Errol Spence has come out and said to everybody, the main thing is we were waiting, and lucky I didn't have any bleeding in the fucking brain. That would have been the worst thing for Errol Spence. He didn't have no bleeding in that brain. You get what I'm saying?
yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
So at the end of the day, bro, all these things you got to counter into factor that he did take a big hit, and the man actually overcome all of these things. He's gone back in the gym with his new teeth, everything back to order, got his injuries out of the way. Now I know Derek James, he ain't gonna put him in unless he was ready. So I think it's been a big rebuild. It's a very exciting fight for us. It's exciting. It's an exciting fight for all the American viewers. And as I touch on to it, you've got Errol Spence winning on unanimous decision.
Yeah.
Okay, I got Errol Spence winning unanimous decision too. So it's a big fight this week. It's all Errol Spence, Danny Garcia, December the 5th. Everybody watch that fight. Let's support that fight. And on that note, I'm gonna salute to everybody in the chat. It's been a nice little we've been having a nice little show today from England, doing a graveyard shift on the lockdown as we're locked down. It's been a great show. We got messages from everywhere, and you guys be safe. We'll catch you on the Errol Spence Danny Garcia fight. We'll be cooking it during the week, and we'll catch you guys shortly. See you later. Bye.